OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
7:30 Friday morning, you're very welcome along to OTB AM. Hope all is well with the world with you. Lovely sunny morning out there. Hope it's the case with you. Owen Sheahan, good morning to you.
Good morning, Adrian.
Very excitingly, we're in the, it matters, it's not a jet to anybody else, but we're in the same building, Owen, for the first time in as long as I can remember.
Well, we did it before Christmas, didn't we? And then cases went up and life got torn apart again.
We all went into our box and we're back out again, and there's no but shortage of stuff to talk about, and an absolutely jam-packed show for you as well. I'll give you a bit of a flavour of what's coming up in just a little bit, but what an interesting week it's been for the world of sport and for the world of football. And I see there's a piece in one of the papers this morning. Florentino Perez was out on Spanish radio last night talking about the SuperLeague and whether it's dead or not. Well, he's very much his view that it's not, that clubs may have pulled out of the initiative around the European SuperLeague, but as an organisation that it's still very much alive. There's a lot of chat across the back pages today about punishments for clubs and what sort of fits the bill on this, and some discussion about maybe points deductions, some discussion maybe about the UEFA will want to throw clubs out of the Champions League next season, or give them some sort of put them to the back of the grid, from somebody who's watching an awful lot of Drive to Survive at the minute. So yeah, all that's up in the air, and I wonder as well, Owen, about like fans' thirst for punishment. I know that the owners obviously have been duly scorned by the reaction of fans. I don't think they expected anything like that over the last 5-6 days. But I just wonder about fans' thirst for any of those types of punishments.
Well, it depends what team you support. Are you talking about fans of the Big Six?
Yeah. Yeah, the rest of them will want, obviously, as much points deductions as could be possibly brought in, and we go back into sort of being aligned around clubs. But I just think that if it's a case that, there's been all sorts of chatter about it, like a lot of chatter as well about maybe they should give fans ticket reductions for next season, like a 15% off your season ticket or free tickets for the season or anything like this. I mean, I think in the way that the GEA bans for a 12-week ban for the manager didn't fully address the issue, and nor do I think that really cuts to the core of it.
Like, the punishments are going to be interesting, because if UEFA, for example, punish these teams, then it will only create a bigger divide that's been created by the bigger teams this week. And by similar token, if the Premier League do that, it'll create a bigger divide between the Premier League chiefs and the Big Six. They still are the Big Six for a reason. They are the six. Okay, maybe not these six, but certainly, four or five of them are the most important 4 or 5 clubs in English football, and that won't not be the case for a few decades at least. So they need to keep those 4 or 5 clubs sweet, and that goes for the Premier League, that goes for UEFA, and I think that's why we saw Alexander Seferin a couple of nights ago being quick to accept the grovelling that was coming from Manchester United and that was coming from Italy, and I think that, like, deep down, he's thinking to himself, we need to get these guys into the new Champions League, and we need them to sign up for our new version of the Champions League, and hope that we can make this runaway train continue to get back on the tracks. Because the divide that, fair enough, that the super teams have created themselves, that will only grow bigger if they're punished more deeply. And, like, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be. Of course, they should be punished for what they've done. But if they do, then there will be a real implication that they will go back to the drawing board and just come up with a new breakaway plan.
Yeah, I think that I think a couple of things. I really don't believe that, despite all the hoo-ha over the last week, I don't think you'll find one fan of one of those clubs who's going to say, well, I think we should be deducted points or any of that sort of thing. I don't think that will go down well at all. And in terms of the thirst to come back and have another go at it, I don't think that any of the owners lost a jot of sleep this week. I think that John Henry obviously was out with a statement during the week, and the rest of them have had stuff to say, and some of it quite apologetic, some of it not really that apologetic at all. And I think that really what's happened here is that the owners have been desperately disappointed that they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar, as opposed to trying to steal the cookies. Because as soon as our back is turned, they're going to be back in again, that lid's going to come off, and the paw is going to begin in looking for more of that good stuff.
Yeah, like, I'm not even sure that they even thought that they would get away with not getting caught with their hand in the cookie jar. I actually think that they might have thought that putting their hand in there in the first place was acceptable. I just don't think anybody really expected the level of backlash that they got, because on one level, the way that those owners have behaved over the last 10, 15 years isn't too different to the behaviour that we've seen this week. This week was more dramatic for sure, and it was probably more greedy, but it doesn't mean that they weren't greedy in the past, and it doesn't mean that they didn't get away with it in the past, because they did. And club fans have voiced displeasure with their owners countless occasions in the past, and yet they will still show up for the games, and they will still be overjoyed when that big owner contributes to making a massive signing for their team. So that's what goes into a decision like this week. They weigh up the possible backlash, and they look at the possible backlashes that they have faced in the past, the backlash, not the possible, the backlashes they faced in the past. And they've weighed it up and said, well, we managed to ride that storm pretty well. We can ride this storm as well, because let's face it, the fans of these clubs are going to benefit with better games. And it just turned out they spectacularly misjudged that entire thing.
Yeah, they just need a better PR job the next time. Like, they're not going to be dissuaded by, if they've tried to put their hand in the cookie jar to further that analogy, and what they're doing is they're kind of doing that and sort of looking at their parents to go, I know you can see me doing this, but just so you know, this is going to be something that's going to become a regular thing. And the parents are kind of making a bit of accommodation for that as well while their kid is at it. And I think that's the dynamic that we have here. And I think that maybe the owners were definitely scorned, and I would say surprised by the breadth and the depth of the backlash. I see Real Madrid fans even out last night with banners about no Super League. So I mean, that's the depth it's gone to, and I do think that really did catch them on the hop. I think that all the other stuff, I would be very surprised if John W. Henry shot that piece in wherever he was shooting it during the week and sort of went home, hopped into his car and went home and tossed and turned all night thinking about, you know, the impact that he'd made on the Premier League or the impact that he was making on European football. I really don't think. I think the evidence of, in some cases, decades of ownership by these guys is that they don't give a toss, and I don't think an incident like this is going to suddenly make them grow a conscience.
But why release the video in the first place? If he didn't have a deep sense of, not conscience, but if he wasn't a little bit worried about the backlash and everything he had seen, why release the video?
Well, I think that in that instance, he's been speaking to the club, the people who are running the club. He's been speaking to Jurgen Klopp, and they're like, listen, pal, we are not up for this, and there's nothing to do with us, and you need to come out and clarify that. And he's like, I could give so little of a toss. That's exactly what I'm going to do. It makes no difference to me whatsoever in terms of any backlash about coming out to apologise for it. It doesn't, to me, none of that stuff matters to them. Like, and I think that, like, words are words, and you can come out and easily apologise for it. The deeds, obviously, the previous week are the thing that we need to keep focused on.
Yeah, like, so do you think it's completely fake from John W. Henry?
Yeah, I don't think that. As I said, I think they're not upset about trying to steal the cookies. They're upset that they got caught with their hand in the jar, and I think that's why when I say that once we turn our back, they're going to be back trying to get into the cookie jar. That's why, you know, these people need to be watched. And yeah, I mean, I do think that, as I said, despite all the hoo-ha of the last week, where, you know, fans rightly and justifiably have been out to protest against this stuff. You know, the punishment one for me is just a really interesting concept as to where we go with that, and you know, the true test of whether fans were actually, you know, deeply behind the wrongs of their own clubs would be if they were willing to swallow a X point deduction next season, or not featuring in the Champions League, or whatever that thing might be. But I mean, as I said, I don't think you'll find one fan who'll be supportive of that for their club.
So when Gary Neville is on Sky Sports on Sunday saying throw them out of the league, I think he mentioned points deductions as well, didn't he, in his epic rant on Sunday. He's a Manchester United fan who's saying that. So you think he's an outlier? He was saying that pre.
So what I'm talking about is, now that all this is done,
you think he would change his opinion?
Settled. Yeah. I mean, in that very specific instance, he may need to stand over what he said, because he's got the eyes and ears of the world when he's making those points. So he may well need to stand over. But I don't think you'll find a fan on the street. Like, it'd be interesting to vox pop some of those fans that are turning up. You know, the crew who turned up at Carrington yesterday to protest against something.
You see, that's where it gets really interesting, is the fact that we have seen this righteous indignation from the big six football fans all week. Will that indignation continue when real change needs to be effected? We had this conversation yesterday, and we came to the conclusion that this was not a victory for change or anything. Nothing has changed. It is just put the halt on further change, like change in a bad direction. Things haven't changed in a good direction. Things have just stopped changing as a result of the things this week. So to effect change in a positive direction, there will need to be action taken on top of that indignation, and that will need the support of all the fans who were angry all week. And I think you're onto something there, that will those fans be supportive of the damage that will now need to be done to their own institutions for real change to occur?
Yeah, well, as we wrap up this part of the chat, tweet in here from CP O'Kane saying the European Super League was and still is a brilliant idea. The sheep in the media, and that's me and you, clearly have no vision and are bleating the same BS, talking about greed, in brackets irony, should be expanded to 40 clubs across Europe with some new franchises, including one in Dublin, which is a grenade to launch into this morning's conversation, and really interested to get your thoughts on that. Anything that's gone on in the Super League this week, or any of that discussion that myself and Owen have been having there this morning about the punishments. What if you're a fan, United fan, Liverpool fan, I mean even a Tottenham fan, I think it'd be unjust on, wouldn't it, to further punish Tottenham ahead of the new season, that, you know, they'd be in danger of relegation actually if you were to make any kind of a points deduction.
Arsenal could get relegated. Let's not like, Arsenal got off scot-free here. I'm personally delighted that Tottenham have been the ones that have been
because
the butt
they
of
were
every
the
joke.
exactly.
But like, let's say Arsenal are the lowest team in the Premier League table. They would be the ones who could be in a bit of bother if they might not even qualify for, what is it, what's the European Challenge Cup or whatever it is next season, the third tier that UEFA have instigated. They might even be in danger of missing out of that if they get a points deduction.
It's gone 20 to 8 on this Friday morning. OTB AM live in association with Gillette. Good mornings start with Gillette, giving you the confidence to tackle the day ahead. We have lots on the way for you between now and 10 a.m. this morning. Ronan O'Gara standing by, fresh on the heels of that new contract. We'll get his thoughts on that in just a moment. We'll let you know what's happening in the back pages just after 8 o'clock this morning. Then we're going to talk to Mark Lawrenson, obviously, about events of the week and looking ahead to the City Spurs game this weekend. Sports news with John Duggan coming a little bit later on. Alan Quinlan will look ahead and a little bit back at events of the week too. Look ahead to the Italy-Ireland game tomorrow midday at Donnybrook, and Leinster-Munster has caught us all a little bit by surprise. That's tomorrow evening at the RDS in the Rainbow Cup. We'll have a crappy quiz at 9:10 and then some Matt Lawton, who was on the show last night, coming your way. So that's all to come a little bit later on. But delighted to say at 7:42 on this Friday morning, we're joined on the line by the still La Rochelle head coach, Ronan O'Gara. Good morning to you.
Hi Adrian, how's it going?
Good. A 3-year contract, I presume a family decision. I presume a poll was taken. Is that the way this thing works?
Yeah, it was. I think that is most definitely top of the agenda, especially with the kids getting older and some of them hitting secondary school level. So it's never easy. It's the most difficult part in my career, I think, in the fact that what impact my decision makes on the family, and it's huge, Adrian, in that regard, because you don't know whether you're doing the right thing, and you still don't know, and it's something that eats away at you quite a bit. All right, so I think you remember what secondary school you went to. I remember what secondary school I went to. It's good days of your life, and it's important days, and my twins would be going into first year in September, so you know, there's decisions with that, quite big decisions, but I think at the minute it's okay where we are.
Yeah. Does that mean that and like, look, I'm asking you to project in a way that maybe you haven't given it much thought to, but given your career choice, that over the next 10, 20 years, particularly in those as your youngest gets to 18, let's say, in sort of college going age, are you going to seek that bit of stability almost, that like it's difficult to uproot your kids, the friends are made, they have their routines? Is that something that it's not that it necessarily needs to be La Rochelle, obviously, over that period of time, but you're less likely to move around almost?
Well, yes, your logic suggests that, but I've been doing the opposite, haven't I? I left in 2013 for 1 year to have a look, and then I'm still on the road. But I love being on the road too, and the fact that it just doesn't feel long, it feels very exciting, and it feels very interesting. But then that's me, and that's selfish me, but you got to kind of obviously consider what's best for your family as well. So that's why it was easy for me to stay in La Rochelle, in the fact that I think there's huge ambition in the project here, and there's not a new school for the kids. So that was ultimately what it came down to.
Mm. What's the difference between a head coach and head of team performance?
I suppose you kind of you got to combine the pitch with the overall vision. That essentially what it looks like to me, Adrian, and the fact that you'll be all over, I suppose, everything that feeds into La Rochelle performing. So there's an awful lot of, I suppose, hidden work that goes into the first team, and there's an awful lot of, I suppose, work that's visible to everyone. So it's about just, I suppose, you'd be the ultimate decision maker is probably the best way of looking at it.
Is there less coaching in that? Or
no,
right.
Sorry, I hope not, and there won't be in my role, no, because that's what I love doing, and I think that's very important, because I think, having watched some people, it can be the first area where you may find yourself devoting more time to meetings. But for me, I have to prioritise the pitch sessions, and that's what I love. I enjoy that side of the game, and I think that's very important. That I'd be on the pitch at all stages, at all times, and all over everything of the rugby content. That's very, very important.
Ronan, you probably suspected that something like this was coming, given how good the season has been going. But at the same time, once the contract does get signed, is there a bit of a fist pump? Is it a moment of quiet happiness when that happens?
No, not really, honestly, because I think, on what I've been aware of is that titles are one thing, but once you're part of a staff or part of an organisation, if you create the right organisation, the right staff, everyone should feel valued and respected and have a forum to voice their opinion. And I think that's very important. I suppose in my style of leadership is the fact that it's not the building that has good ideas, it's the people within the building. So you got to surround yourself with good people, and we're at our starting point in that regard, and you'd be looking to strengthen that area, and you'd be looking to get the best out of people, and that's very important. But there's nearly 2, I suppose, games going on within the game, and the fact you have a staff and you have a playing group. The playing group, it's probably easy enough to manage, but the staff, it becomes tricky, because the older people get, sometimes the more contrary they become, and you have to manage that, and you have to see where their ambition is, and you have to see what their vision is, and you have to respect that also. But you need to keep bringing it back to what's best for the team. So with that, I suppose there's also a time where other people may have been suppressed in previous regimes, or they may not have felt valued. So you have to find, I suppose, a starting point on, and then work through it, and then see what their vision is, and then hopefully it combines with yours. If not, it'll be tricky. So
do you have to take a different tact to being a coach as you are to dealing with staff in the hierarchy of the club, for example? Yeah, you would, most definitely. It's very different. It's like nearly a different job in that regard, because you obviously have the tactics and you have the managing of players, but then you have to, the players get inspired by the staff. So we need good staff. There are certainly good people here at the minute, but you can always add to it, and you can always, I suppose, challenge them to make sure that they're getting the best out of themselves as well.
Is that structure something that's important to your own, and that you're able to make those key decisions around staff or contracts or that sort of thing? Is that something that's important to you?
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be, because that's that's us concentrating on us, in the fact that if we are to control and get the best out of ourselves with the staff we have and with the playing group we have, that's one bit. But you got to remember that all the other clubs in Europe are trying to do the exact same thing, and then they're coming with their game plan against you. So if we're not united, settled, driven, how do we expect to perform? So we got to make sure that we have an omnigram that performs and that people are happy contributing to. So that is very, very important. I think especially in France, they like probably having their roles and responsibilities defined in front of other people, and then they feel accountable.
Is that something that's fairly new to you? Obviously, you would have fed into the process, I'm sure, and you'd have been on the end of your own contract negotiations as a player. But is that something that's relatively new to you then on that side, where you're the one sitting there going, we are giving you a new contract because, or we're not, or we're giving you less money, or whatever the case might be?
No, it's not that new. No, I think that's why it's great with technology nowadays, and the fact obviously there's a human side and you have to be able to deliver a message, but sometimes by delivering images through, a highlights reel, or through a video where the player is able to see for himself, well, that's how I'm performing, so I have a brilliant, outstanding case of being retained, or I'm actually not in that great a position. Because if you just say it to them without the images are far more powerful than words nowadays. So I think that they unless they're in complete denial, they're able to have a frank, honest conversation with you.
And when you look to, like, I know you're saying that obviously you want to sort of continue to do as much coaching as you can. Have you given thought or looked to bring in any other coaches, or are you thinking that way yet? I'm going to take that as a yes. Expect an announcement in the next 24 hours. That's what I'm taking that as.
You're some beauty, isn't it? You just tip away gently for 7 minutes, 8 minutes, proud away. Yes. Of
That's
course,
a yes,
everything is possible. Yeah, it will be a yes, whether that comes from within the SPOR environment or whether that comes from outside. The good thing about the CEO and the president here, Adrian, is the fact that the rugby decisions will be mine as long as they're in line with the values of the club. So they want to continue to improve and they want to get better, but we got to do it respecting what La Rochelle have always done in the past, is kind of trying to promote from within, but also trying to be from now on, one of the top teams in France and in Europe.
Yeah. And so how much attention are you paying then when you say about the Esport or indeed at other clubs to, the Felix Jones of these worlds who are coming through, and his situation was slightly different in that he obviously got injured and had to leave early, but it seemed like from the people who played with him that all the indications were there that was something he was very capable of in terms of that coaching role. How much attention are you paying to that with the group that you have or beyond, with that in mind?
You pay attention to everything. It's once you're stuck in it, it's kind of very easy to see. So the idea is obviously that you're always trying to get better day by day, and you're always open to suggestions and open to learning, but there's the kind of reality with current contract situations that have been done in the past as opposed to where you want to bring it to. So it's not like you have a blank sheet and you can do exactly what you want. You have to work within some restrictions, but if you get your planning right and if you get your contracting right, then you have a good chance.
Could I ask you about Darren Sweetenham, Ronan, because he's obviously had the ability now to go away and I guess broaden his horizons, even though he needed to go away and get more rugby. In a way, obviously, you stayed in Ireland throughout your entire playing career because you were at the very top of the pecking order. When you're not at the top of the pecking order, you have that ability to go away and broaden your horizons, I'd imagine. I presume it's one little positive of perhaps not being the first name on the team sheet as a young Irish player.
For Darren, is it?
For Darren and in general, for that sort of player who's in that position about whether or not they stay or go.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And I think you're right, because it's with an asterisk, it's a very different decision for every different player, because no player's situation is the same. And because Ireland's playing pool is so small, every decision has to be taken differently. You look at, in Darren's case, he was, I think, probably thriving under Rassie Erasmus and playing well, and then for whatever reason, through injury or lack of form, didn't hit the ground running under the next regime, and then he's not been contracted for next season. So I think when a guy has played for Ireland under Joe Schmidt, he obviously is a quality player. That's undeniable. So from my point of view, it was a case of, we've a lot of injuries in the back three, so get them over, but it doesn't need to be that case. I think for the guys that are on the fringes, or outside the top 30 in the provinces, which is only 4 provinces, remember, that's only 120 players. Beneath that to probably 250, there are players that are late developers or for whatever reason overlooked, and I suppose it's difficult for them to get an opportunity, and that seems to be the case everywhere now, and the fact that it's hard to get into squads.
One last one for me on the staying put end of things. It struck me last night, just thinking about the chat this morning, on that the clubs you've been at, whether it was Munster, particularly in the latter years, Racing, Crusaders, like they're all elite clubs with massive expectations. You mentioned the ambitions of the club there a few minutes ago. Has it surprised you how quickly you've been? I mean, I don't know if underdog is quite the right terminology, but certainly they don't have the history of some of those clubs I've mentioned. Has it surprised you how quickly you've been able to adapt to that slightly different dynamic?
Yeah, it has surprised me. Yeah, no doubt. But the good thing I'm continuously, I suppose, striving to understand is we don't know our limit. So you can't put a limit on sports people because you don't know where it's going to get to. So if you're kind of putting, the ultimate goal to win the Champions Cup or the top 14, I don't think that's a good idea. I just think you try and unlock your potential. And deep inside all of us, we don't know where that is, and everyone's limit is very different. And you multiply that by different people from different cultures, all genetically different human beings. In our case, in La Rochelle, it becomes so exciting because you've Fijians and you've South Africans and you've French people and you've New Zealanders and you've Georgians and you have every kind of different culture, but you mix that together and it can become quite potent if you set up the environment right. And it's not fully right. There's no point saying it is, but it becomes very exciting, Adrian, when you're driving that. And the reality is La Rochelle were second division clubs 6 years ago. So, there would be a weak backbone there. There's no doubt about that. But in the current group, you're trying to just get the fortitude mentally to a level where we can hold. And, Leinster will be coming at us hard, but we need to be able to take that and respond, because it will be a huge challenge because, when they're 14-0 down to Exeter away from home, you're thinking Exeter have this, but Leinster won comfortably in the end. So for our guys not to get spooked, and that's the beauty of the game, and it's very, very exciting, and it's not daunting. It's something that you want to test yourself against.
That point on not setting limits for players is interesting. Like, I always remember Jim McGuinness saying that they were completely obsessed with winning the All-Ireland in 2012, and it was that's the thing that drove them, that specific goal. From what you're saying, though, rugby is just a different beast when you've got people coming from all over the world, and the top 14 wouldn't matter, say, from your childhood as much as, say, an All-Ireland would in Donegal, and it has to be different. Yeah. Is it down to that? Is it as simple as that?
Well, yeah, it's as you say, it's where we are now, and the Buckley and the Champions Cup is very fashionable, but as you said, like, a lot of these guys grew up, I suppose, dreaming of playing for their country, but now they're here. Diversity becomes a very, very powerful tool, because once we know what we're playing for and why we're playing, then we have a chance, because we have some really good players. But the key is to trying to unite these players and get them believing in a shared identity and a shared goal. And the goal doesn't have to be silverware. The goal can be actually, I want to be as best as I can be, or I want to unlock my potential. I want to show these guys I can play. But then all of a sudden, if you win something, what happens next? So people struggle with that. So that was the great thing about the Crusaders, was it was just kind of build a dynasty and keep this thing rolling and be inspired about being as best you can. And that's, I think, when you live that once in a group, or a group that care for each other, becomes very powerful.
You have to go, but briefly, will you have a fit 10 for Sunday week?
Well, not this morning, but I'm hoping Sunday week we will, yes.
One of your men too?
Very much up in the air.
Right.
Very much up in the air. So 2 very different injuries, one lower body, one upper body. So, yeah, but that happens at this stage of the season too. Everyone is having niggles and knocks, but these are substantial injuries, which is, maybe not substantial, but they're injuries that, you know what I mean, you need to be right if you're trying to take the pitch.
You're not giving too much away. You're holding a very tight brief for us this morning, Ronan, between that and this new coach that we're all waiting to see.
You've had your porridge. Well done.
Enjoy the day.
See ya.
Thanks, Ronan.
Cheers. Thank you.
Ronan O'Gara on the line there from La Rochelle. Exciting, really exciting times ahead. Like it is an incredible part of the world. His family is obviously very well settled there. You're like knee deep in a new culture, not just from a French point of view, but like as we've been discussing there with him, obviously from a rugby point of view from himself as well. Like he's obviously learning so much on the job and driving it on in a fairly significant way for anybody that's been paying any attention to not just how eloquently he talks off the pitch, but how brilliantly they're doing on it. This is one of the true rising stars of the world game, on.
Yeah, absolutely. It is brilliant for him, and like as he said there, it was a big family decision, and there's no need to break something that's going really good for him on a professional level as well. And I guess the new role is going to be exciting as well, whoever those new coaches are that come in and work with him, and trying to get that sense of things as well is going to be important, because rugby has changed a lot in terms of the coach's role and what the head coach does, what the director of rugby does, and getting experience and getting the knowledge and actually working in all those different levels is going to be something that's going to stand him in good stead. But yeah, at least another thing is at least the clamour around when is Ronan O'Gara coming home just quietens down for a few years now. Like that's the thing. I think everybody will just come to a stage of acceptance that this is where it is, and let the people at home get on with their job as well. Yeah,
it'll bubble up again is the thing, right? Probably like he's got a 3-year contract. It'll bubble up again in 2 years. It might bubble up before that if Munster are struggling a little bit, and it is just such an exciting time. And even if things don't go La Rochelle's way Sunday week, or you know that they're not competing as well as they have done this season, next season for the Heineken Cup or in the top 14, like that shouldn't take away from like the bank of experience and nous that this guy's building up in France. And we're all obviously thinking very selfishly with a view to trying to bring that home at some point or another. He's probably not thinking like that at all at the minute. He's thinking, I've got a great career here, there's nothing more I need at the minute, and we'll see what happens down the track. And we will, and no doubt I'm sure we will see him at this side of the water very soon. Plenty of thoughts coming in for Ronan. We'll bring you some of those in just a little bit, but it is 3 minutes past 8 on this Friday morning. You're watching OTB AM. We have loads coming your way. Mark Lawrenson in just a little bit with a crappy quiz coming as well. Packed show still to come here. We're going to hear from Alan Quinlan in just a little bit as well. We're going to be talking football with Mark as well. But we're back after these with Friday's Sports Pages.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
The Women's Six Nations is here, and OTB Sports is your one-stop shop for all the best coverage, analysis and opinion.
As Ireland take on Wales and France to decide their position on finals day, we will bring you a special weekly Six Nations show with some of the great names of the game, as well as special interviews with Irish legends Sophie Spence and Rosie Foley.
With reporters at the games, all the latest team news, match previews and much, much more. Check out otbsports.com/Women's Six Nations.
How competitive was the house? It must have been fiercely competitive. You surely have amazing stories about how competitive you were.
Oh yeah. Oh, I do. But I have a memory in my head of I was lucky enough because in 5th and 6th class I was as tall and as broad as I am now then, and so Anthony was a scrawny little thing, and my sister would have been 4 years younger, so she was even scrawnier. So sure, I got away with murder until I think Anthony was in first year in Munchens, and they'd come home at the weekend, and I don't know what we were doing. I have a feeling it had to do with a rugby ball, and I remember we both went for it, and I came out second best. It wasn't a good feeling, and I think at that time I kind of realised that there's a bit of a difference happening here. Not really liking, not winning this, but we had that. when we played tennis, then we were lucky enough that Woody Keith grew up the road from us. So when we were playing tennis, poor old Noreen Blake, who was here in the tennis club, used to bring us over to Ballina first, and now we've a fabulous setup of tennis here in Killaloo. But Lord above, there was times it was like Scud missiles. It was literally Woody against Anthony, or I'd be with Anthony and Woody'd have a partner. It was absolutely, sometimes it could be carnage, absolute carnage. But what a way to grow up.
What a way to grow up. I heard that he was a bit of a diva when he was younger. You know, he didn't really like to lose either, Rosie.
No. Neither Anthony or Woody liked to lose at anything, you know, and they stayed competitive the whole way through life. They absolutely.
Sean, what's that thing going round the garden?
That is our new Husqvarna Automower.
Automower?
Yeah, it's a robotic lawnmower from Husqvarna. Cuts the grass automatically, has GPS tracking and an app. Even works in the rain. I just thought, why spend time cutting grass when I could spend it with the family?
Great! You can put the dinner on, so...
No can do, love. Have to paint the man cave.
Husqvarna Automower. Never mow again. Learn more at husqvarna.ie.
Check out the Boyle Sports app today for details on which football match is getting the no-lose treatment this week. Plus, browse through dozens of new player markets, all powered by Opta. Shots on target, left foot, right foot, headed goals, assists and more. See the Boyle Sports app for full T's and C's. Boyle Sports. This is betting. Gamble responsibly. See gamblingcare.ie 18+.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
8:07 on this Friday morning. You're watching OTB AM. We've lots of comments that have come in relation to Ronan O'Gara. We'll try and bring you those a little bit later in the show. But you'll have heard and seen Rosie Foley there in conversation with Valerie Wheeler during the break on the Women's Six Nations show on OTB. You can catch the show live every Thursday and at 1 o'clock, also available to watch back on YouTube or to listen on podcasts. So there's the Women's Six Nations show itself that'll go out at that time, and that'll be reviewing and previewing, obviously looking back at the Italy game next week, and then also that feature interview that next week, another special guest in the hot seat with Valerie that will bring you more details on over the next few days. Niamh Briggs and Alan Quinlan joined Valerie live this week to preview the weekend's game against Italy, and you can check out the podcast as well in OTB Rugby. So that is what's going on there. Do keep your comments coming into us, by the way, if it's in relation to football or anything else. We definitely had one commenter on YouTube earlier on in relation to our conversation at the top of the show about whether fans of individual clubs would actually want their own club punished by way of points deduction or booting out of the Champions League or whatever it might be, and somebody, Liverpool fan, saying that they'd be more than happy for their own club to take a points deduction. So I mean, I don't know if that's an outlier or there are other people out there that feel that way, but certainly that was the thoughts of one of our commenters on YouTube a little earlier today. So if that was Alex Smith, if indeed you're of the same view, do get your comments into us. Bit of a flavour of what's going on across the back pages for you this morning. We're going to kick off here with the Irish Daily Star, and red light is the big thing here. You can see obviously the fans that gathered at Manchester United's training ground in Carrington yesterday. I'll just move that there so you can see it a bit clear. 51% Manchester United. Glazers out, obviously the main thing there. Red light, reads the piece by Gideon Brooks. Premier test for Limerick. This is the draw for the 2021 All-Ireland Championship. Kevin and Mike still in charge. It says up here Kevin Sheedy remaining in charge of Waterford. That's in the Star. In the Mirror, seeing red again, the same team at Manchester United yesterday, and the Gunners a brace for similar protest tonight during their game. Sorry Sam, that's Leicester whipping West Brom 3-0 last night is the story there in the Mirror. The Irish Times for you this morning, more reflections on that Manchester United story. Also, the English haven't gone. This was the interview that Florentino Perez did on Spanish radio last night. He says the project isn't yet dead, and Sid Lowe has a report on that interview there last night. Appetite growing to punish rebels is the other thing there. Wembley set to benefit from Dublin loss, writes John Fallon, that UEFA to reallocate Dublin's €4 games to Wembley. So we'll see how that unfolds. And also, by the way, inside here, and I've been laughing at various points over the course of this morning, there are some authored pieces in the Irish Times all this week from people that you might not expect, and their passion for the sport that they're involved in. But the one that tickled me this morning was Brian Dobson on his love of sailing, I could just keep going. It's that sense of endless possibility. I really do recommend that over a cup of coffee at some point this morning. You take that out and have a read about the passion of Dobbo. That you just.
What did you learn?
That Dobbo he does like to get out and get away from things. On is the main sort of point of this. That he's not always a news hound, but at the same time he is sort of always looking at the phone. But he likes to get out of Bullock Harbour and Dalkey, get out, get a good look at the horizon, and think about the possibilities of what it might be like to set sail for that horizon and just keep on going until a push notification from the RT News Now app brings him back to reality. On.
I guess ourselves and Dobbo have a lot in common. I mean, he's moved from an evening, a night hawk into a bit more of a morning person. Obviously, he's working earlier shifts these days, and after his work, when he's finished in the early afternoon, he goes off to Bullock Harbour and sails away to the horizon. Now, I differ. I go home and I binge watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but I still think that we got a lot in common, myself and Dobbo.
So he's setting sail from Bullock Harbour and Dalkey for the horizon, and you're at home watching Danny DeVito and the lads tear it up.
It's how we do, myself and Brian, and all the lunchtime finishers.
Same, but different. The Irish Daily Mail for you this morning. United stars in attack scare. An exclusive here, writes Chris Wheeler and Simon Jones. That's on all of the back pages for you this morning. Good Evans, Leicester close in on Champions League. And Paddy Talley, I'm no enemy of the public. Down manager Paddy Talley, it's a piece by Michael Clifford here, admitted that he was hurt by the public perception of him as public enemy following a suspension for breaching the ban on collective training. The Sun. Hello, darkness, my old friend, writes Tony Little here. Ed Woodward quit as Manchester United Executive Vice Chairman on Monday because he was kept in the dark over the final plans for the new controversial Super League. And there is plenty of commentary. You don't have to go too far to find it suggesting that Ed Woodward wasn't such an innocent bystander. Joel United, Ole Angers, Glazer protesters. That's the exclusive, obviously, that's exclusive in the Mail this morning and all the other papers. The Irish Independent, blow for Kenny as Scout Higgins set for Derry job. This has been confirmed, I think, this morning. The news that Rory Higgins, another one of Stephen Kenny's backroom staff, has taken the Derry City job on. It's tough. I know he was part that Derry City been out to thank Stephen Kenny and Jonathan Hill this morning for their role in getting this over the line, but it seems like Stephen Kenny can't catch a break.
Yeah, at the same time, there's a guy with obviously personal ambition, and if they're being thanked for allowing that to happen, you got to let the guy go, and you got to try and help him through his own career, especially in that sort of role. Like, I mean, how far are we away from the next set of internationals? 2 months. Like, it does seem that there is kind of a new departure every international window, or every break between international windows at this point. But this is obviously just personal ambition, and fair play to everybody to allow it to happen.
Yeah, well, it's the full details of the story is up on OTBSports.com this morning for you if you want to go along and check that out, of Rory Higgins leaving Kenny's side to become new Derry City boss. I think we can take a look at that there. It's all up on OTBSports.com, as well as John Giles from the show last night, his emotional defence of football's historical institutions is also up there. Kevin Sheedy shutting down that baseless rumour around the Waterford tenure, and plenty more up there as well. That's OTBSports.com. We'll give you a look at some of the other papers a little bit later on in the morning. But I think, Eoin, we're going to talk a bit of football.
Yeah, we are indeed. We're going to bring Mark Lawrenson into play at 8:13 this morning. Mark, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, Mark, that was quite the week, wasn't it? I guess let's start with the aftermath to the dissolution of the European Super League. Over the last 48 hours or so, which club has done the best job of salvaging their own reputation?
None. Well, they haven't, have they? Because to get there in the first place, I think one of the things which I don't think too many people have caught upon is that literally just the owners, it would appear only the owners and no one else at any of the football clubs would have seemed to have known exactly what's happening while, they've had all these secret meetings, etc. I'm not even sure if the chief exec at Liverpool, Billy, I'm not even sure if he was in on it, because the reason being that surely all these other guys at the football clubs who are at the kind of coalface, for want of a better description, would have said to the owners, really? Are you sure? Do you realise what kind of mayhem this is going to cause? So I think, that they're all have been as bad as each other. And when you look at it now, I mean, you get 6 billionaires around the table. They're not talking about coffee and donuts, are they? They're just talking about making more money, and that's obviously what the whole thing was. And it feels to me like it was the Americans' way of trying to make European football an American sport, as in no relegation, etc. Loads and loads of money, same teams in it, week in, week out.
It did seem, if you go back to last summer, that Liverpool were the Premier League club with the best relationship with their American or non-native owner. That's obviously changed quite a bit, but at the same time, is there any credit in the bank that allows them to get that relationship back? Yeah,
I think there is. I mean, as a person in life, you can forgive, and I think you should forgive, but you can never ever forget. And I think that's what the stage that they're at. Obviously, they messed up with the furlough, which was quickly put right after obviously everybody went mad about it. 2 days later was all sorted. And I think generally, FSG, John Henry, etc., have really seriously sorted the club out. New stand, we're going to build another one, of course, at the old Anfield Road end. Manager's been brilliant. He's had money for players, and they've been successful. And I think part of that is because they have their own franchise as well in America in terms of sport, so they know how sport works, how it happens. People get injured, players lose form, all those kind of things. So, listen, I don't expect to see them anytime at Liverpool soon, but yeah, I think generally, I think they've been okay. You'll get the odd percentage of people say, "Oh, get rid of them, sell up, and all that." But the problem with that is, these guys pay the wages, and if you really kind of pee somebody off like John Henry, he might go to Klopp. All right, okay, fine. If that's the way that it is, I want you to sell Salah tomorrow, and when Van Dijk's fit, I want you to sell him and recoup some of my money. So you've got to be very careful and just play the game. I think I get the supporters, I get the anger, I get the ire, I get the fact that I'm going to chuck me season ticket in for next season and all that kind of thing. I don't see many people doing that though.
And you've hit the nail on the head there with the hypocrisy that is at the heart of all of this week. The distaste with greed in football, but at the same time, the satisfaction that comes from spending £50 million on a new player.
Yeah, well, that's where we're at. And I mean, you've got to kind of look at the Premier League as well. Who when they came in, all bells and whistles in 92, and everyone went, "Oh, I'm not sure about this." But in fairness to them, the big thing about football across here is the pyramid system. It's the fact that the Premier League money does filter down into the Championship and into Divs 1 and 2 and all the kind of semi-pro leagues as well. So that's from the Premier League's point of view. They've actually done really, really well. But I think it's like anything in life with a lot of people. If you've got a nice big house, what do you want? Well, I want a bigger house. You're on a really good salary. Well, actually, I want a bigger salary. And I think that's just a little bit of life, isn't it, in all honesty?
Is it a bit like, we're all over the place with the analogies this morning, but like people have got that view of how the sausage gets made. We'll run with that one for now. And, nobody liked the look of it. And now suddenly the door's been shut, the plate has been served and everybody's kind of happy. Do you expect everybody to just move on very quickly from this, Mark, and like another iteration of this coming down the track notwithstanding, but do you expect in the short term that fans just close the door on it? That's enough, that's done, let's get on with supporting the club?
I think another analogy, I think the door might be just a little bit ajar, but probably more shut than open. But I think because fans, I mean, well, you just saw all the protests, and you just saw the way that basically everybody apart from the billionaires were just saying, no, this cannot happen. I mean, the stance of the guy at Real Madrid is just it's just pathetic. But of course we know that I think they're nearly €1 billion in debt, so they're going to vote for anything that brings them more dough. And Barcelona as well, financially in a poor position. But yeah, I think it's kind of maybe a good thing. Is not many games to go in terms of the rest of the season. Everybody obviously will be tuning in and watching what happens. Premier League, FA Cup, Champions League, all those kind of things. I don't think there'll be any sanctions before the end of the season, if there are any sanctions. And then we've got a breathing space of probably about 6 weeks. And I think we'll all start again. But everybody will have that little kind of little worm in their head, which is, well, what happens next? What? So they've not got this. What do you think they might do in the meantime? But
what do you think, Mark?
I think they'll sit on their hands for a while. And I mean, Perez saying, "No, it's not over. It's not this." Well, good luck. If you've got 4 teams, Senor Perez, have your little competition and play each other 30 times in the year and get on with it, and we'll forget about you. But yeah, I think just generally everybody in the football world will now just come on. Let's start playing football and let's get back on it.
How concerned were you on Monday night when you heard Jurgen Klopp speak, thinking at this time that the Super League was going to go ahead? Were you worried that he was going to walk over this?
I wasn't worried, but of course, you know, he's very honest, and his interview was really, really honest, and you could tell that he was peed off as well, wasn't he? Because he'd heard nothing, and this goes back to the fact that they really did keep it a secret, which is unbelievable in the world that we live in. I mean, look at us this morning, Zooming and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, but I think with Jurgen Klopp, I think one day he will walk away, and that will be his own choice. I don't ever really see him getting sacked by by FSG or anything like that, and he's very much in charge of his own destiny. So, and he's earned that as well. But I think it was just another thing that he's thinking, oh my goodness, I'm trying to win football games here, and I'm trying to get in the top 4. We're trying to get into the Champions League for next season. It's almost kind of, yeah, this is what I think. Now deal with it and do one.
Like, of all the managers of those 12 clubs that were due to be part of this, he's probably the one that you put above all others, maybe because he comes from Germany, maybe because he does seem to be a really good man, that he's the person that might have been affected most by this. And by extension, Mark, you wonder if this will have a lingering impact on his longevity at Liverpool.
Yeah, and I think that's a really, really good statement as well, the longevity thing. But right, so let's go back to the Eoin. Let's say go back to John Henry, and I presume he's had a conversation with Klopp. I'd be very, very surprised if he hasn't, because that would really upset Jurgen Klopp, obviously, because it's like he's not in the loop. But I think he might have had a conversation. I would hope so, and I think he might say to him, "Okay, Jurgen, you know, seriously messed up. Right, in terms of next season, players in, players out, what we're looking at, you know, who do you want to sell? Would you like to buy?" And I would imagine as well that he would now think, look, I really need to do the manager a favour. And maybe if he'd said to him, look, you've got 80 million to spend, he might just say, well, actually, make that 100. So, you know, it's life. That's how it works. And we would have already kind of have people and players that they would like to kind of take into the football club if possible, and get the deal over the line. And maybe now he's probably got more money to spend. I would have thought so somehow.
What punishment, if any, do you think would be fitting from the Premier League standpoint now?
I don't know really. I think the thing with this Premier League as well, that everybody knows how badly they need those top 6 teams. They might give them a fine, give them a little slap on the wrist. I don't expect anything too drastic or draconian at all, because that's not really how the Premier League works. And bottom line is that they need these teams. And if they suddenly said, well, you know, your results for this season are cancelled, you can imagine Sky, BT, BBC, everybody's going to have something to say about it, and obviously want some more money back. And it comes back to money, doesn't it? It's always, life is just nearly always comes back to money. So I don't think they're going to get a major slap, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think you're probably going to be right on that. Probably the 500th most important sports story of the week was Jose Mourinho, a certain manager losing his job at Tottenham Hotspur. They obviously played a Carabao Cup final this weekend against Manchester City. But on Jose, we were having a conversation about this early in the week, and how his career and his end of days at Tottenham was just kind of a sad reflection on Jose, that he'd kind of lost that vigour, and he'd kind of lost even that anger that kind of besmirched his time at Manchester United a little bit. What was your feeling when you saw him lose his job on Monday?
Not a surprise. I think this will be something to do with money as well. I would imagine that if he'd been in charge for the Carabao Cup final and won it, he'd have got a 7-figure sum in terms of a bonus. So you know what Daniel Levy's like, he wouldn't give you a last P on the plate. So I think that was part and parcel of it. I think also the way that everyone keeps saying Tottenham aren't a good watch, which they aren't particularly. And I think his biggest problem has been at Tottenham is defensively, which is really, really unusual for Jose, because, you know, when you look at his teams over how many teams he's had, he starts from the back in the way that he builds, and then he goes forward in terms of the players that he brings in. So that's not really happened for him either. And you just felt with him, it was only ever a matter of time. He always seemed to be a couple or 2 or 3 defeats away from getting the tin tack from Mr. Levy.
We've just been spent a lot of time discussion about the decisions at the top table of some of the top clubs in Europe. So I suppose the answer maybe to my next question is who knows. But that notwithstanding, is he done, Mark, from what we've seen over the last 5-6 years of Jose Mourinho as a top coach at a top club?
Who knows? No, I think he's done in England. I don't know if he's done in Europe. I think he probably has a little bit more respect across Europe because, you know, Milan and what he did there, and obviously the Portuguese teams and everything. So whether he wants another job or not, I don't know, but I would think so, because I just think, you know, whatever you think about him, is he loves football, and I've met him a few times, and away from football, he's like good company and very kind of taking the mickey and stuff out of himself with different stories and one thing and another. I remember when he was at Chelsea and he sold David Luiz to PSG. And Gary Lineker, who's quite close, certainly a lot closer than I would ever be to Jose. I think he texted him and I think he just said something like, "Wow, what a sale that is!" And Jose texted him back and went, "Yeah, aren't I a genius?" Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! Yeah.
It's funny because you did get even a sense of that. There was the clip of him that he put up on his own Instagram account where the Sky reporter was doorstepping him at his car to see could he get a reaction out of him. And you actually saw at that point a human being, which you don't often get an insight to with Jose. Like Eoin said, his mentality is sometimes slightly different to that. But has he even outside of where he might land, has he lost touch, Mark, or is that overstretching things a bit with the way the modern game has gone?
No, I don't think he's lost touch. I just don't think he had the players, and I think, you know, because I bore everyone about this, recruitment's the biggest thing in football now after your manager. Really seriously is. And you know, you look at Barcelona and Madrid, and they've got that spectacularly wrong, especially Barcelona. So that's why they're in a mess. And Tottenham was a little bit the same. It's you know, if you bring players in, they've got to be better than the players you've got in there, and that's why you bring them in anyway. I'm not quite sure whether some of the players that he's brought in have been of the quality that you would expect from a Jose Mourinho side. And when you say, if you compare his best team at Chelsea and look now at Tottenham, well, there is no comparison, is there? Absolutely, totally is no comparison. I mean, that team at Chelsea that he had, or teams, they were all outstanding teams, and most of those players in the first 11s would have got him in any team across Europe.
Who's a good fit to replace him?
Pochettino. It's funny, isn't it? It's like when a team in the Premier League gets relegated, it's like about to get relegated or in a mess. They say, who should replace the manager? It's always Sam Allardyce, isn't it? At the bottom end of the table. I don't know. They're talking about the German boy, aren't they?
Yeah, Nagelsmann. Yeah,
Nagelsmann. So, which we don't know, do we? Because the thing is, he'll come in, and what do you do as a manager straight away is, everyone's great. It's this, and I work with what I've got. And after a few weeks, you're looking and you're knocking on the chairman's door and saying, actually, we need this, we need that, we need whatever. I mean, the great thing for someone like Nagelsmann will be that his salary will be unbelievable in comparison to what it is. So sometimes it's very, very difficult to say no, because you might think, you know what, if I only do a year or 18 months, get paid off into the sunshine, have a bit of gardening leave, and then get another job. But that's, these guys are fortunate that they're in that position.
Brendan Rodgers is like 4th or 5th favourite to get it. Is he better off staying put?
Yeah, stay put. Brendan's done well. And, when they're all fit, excuse me, at Leicester, he hasn't half got some players. And I'll go back to my point before about recruitment. Their recruitment's been excellent. If they had a fire sale at Leicester, my God, they would make an unbelievable amount of money. So, no, just stay there. And I think, certainly with Brendan, ostensibly he runs the club. He makes most of the major decisions there. And look, for a manager, that's kind of absolute utopia. Also, I think that obviously, the very sad thing about the guy who obviously owned the club originally, who died and stuff in the helicopter crash. And I think what they've done since the family, they've gone to Brendan and gone, here you go, Brendan, this is your baby, and deal with it. And he's done really, really well. I mean, Brendan's not daft. Brendan likes Brendan, which is absolutely fine. I don't really have a problem with that. But it's also, he's made some very, very clever moves. If you think about it, I think he was harshly dealt with at Liverpool in terms of when he got sacked. I don't mean the fact that he lost his job, just the fact that it was Goodison and they just hired him straight out, which was, I think they could have been a bit classier over stuff like that. But Celtic was obviously good. He picked his moment to go to Leicester, even though all the Celtic fans obviously said, oh, it's a downward step, which obviously it isn't. I think he got a brand new spanking contract not too long ago because his name was mentioned for all sorts of other jobs. And, good luck to him.
Just one last point on Jose. There's a chance he goes back into punditry immediately for the time being. Does he immediately improve Sky Sports' output as a pundit in there?
Does he improve it? He's obviously a fantastic name, but I don't think you ever really see Jose, even then when he's there as a pundit, there's almost this kind of thing which just stops him probably sometimes, I feel like, saying what he really wants to say. And Cara and obviously Gene Evans stuff, I mean, they've been brilliant for Sky Sports and what have you. If you knew that Jose was on the telly tonight for Sky, would you turn on if you weren't going to normally turn on anyway?
Probably.
I'm not really sure that you would.
I probably would, yeah. I mean, I do take your point, though. I also think there'll be kind of interesting conversations now that Gary Neville and Roy Keane have been having a pop off him over the last while that might make for a little
but he's not daft. He knows that's the way that it is. I mean, when I used to do Match of the Day, I mean, I pissed off so many managers, but when you meet them, most of the time when you meet them after, they're not in the job anyway, and the next thing is that they're saying to you, look, if you hear of anyone needing a manager, give me a shout. So it's just the way that football is, isn't it? And everybody really seriously accepts it.
Yeah. Just on the Carabao Cup final, sorry, very, very quickly, Mark, before we wrap. After losing to Chelsea last weekend, I know nobody really cares about the Carabao Cup, but it would all of a sudden go from a quadruple to a double at best if they lose on Sunday. A little bit of pressure. Yeah, little. I would say 5% pressure. Okay. I think he just, obviously they've got Champions League next week, haven't they? City. Yeah. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. So I don't really get this thing about not picking your best team, and it will be the first trophy of the season. Pick your best team, like get the silverware in the cabinet, and then deal with next week and the rest of the season when you need to deal with it. And you can only ever talk about your time when you played and stuff. And I mean, every League Cup final that we played in, we always played our best team, and it wasn't even. I know football's changed and everything, and I'm not a dinosaur, but it would. And Bob Paisley's thing was, well, if you don't pick your best team and you get beat, you'll be forever wondering what would have happened if I picked my best team. And Pep's done it a couple of times. We know he did it, Leon, in the Champions League, and obviously did it in the FA Cup semi last week, a few days ago. And I don't really get it, and I don't really get the fact that you need to keep all your players happy. Look, pick your best team, and if they're knocking on your door,
and they say, why am I not on the team? And you've won the cup. They go, well, that's why, because we've just won it, and basically get on with it.
Thanks a million, Mark.
Pleasure.
Thanks a lot. Mark Lawrenson on the line there. Really interesting stuff as always. 8:35 on this Friday morning. Lots of comments coming in, including this one, Eoin from Alfie Kiernan on YouTube. My immersion switch is locked on the heating position. Should I be worried? He asks his fellow YouTube commenters. Sorry, I've been calling the businesses all morning and no one has rung back. The hot press is like a sauna. Thanks.
Well, that's good to... Obviously, the hot press is doing its job. If it feels like a sauna, a hot press should feel like a sauna at its very best. But yeah, you should be very concerned.
Would you open the door and maybe let some of that heat circulate around the house?
No, that's
might
bad.
serve a dual function.
A day after Earth Day, you're going to just let heat leak around the house.
But he can't. You see, he can't. He's in an odd position in that he can't actually turn it off.
We'll get some get a horse of wet clothes and pop them outside and get some use out of that leaking immersion.
That's a good idea, yeah. Or one of those little fans that operates on the heat itself and circulate the heat around the house while it's there. And I mean, keep calling the businesses. It's not even business hours yet, so somebody will be out to you. I'm sure there's an emergency number somewhere. Right. If you've any comments on Alfie's immersion there or anything else you have this morning, do keep them coming into us. Alan Quinlan will be up with us very shortly, but it is 8:36 on this Friday morning. John Duggan will be with us next on OTB AM. He's going to bring us the latest sports news. But before all of that, yesterday afternoon at his weekly press conference, Eoin asked the Brighton boss, Graham Potter, about Aaron Connolly's development so far this season.
Next, Sheahan.
Hi Graham, Eoin Sheahan here from OTB SPORTS in Dublin. Just on Aaron Connolly, I know he's having his injury problems at the moment, but could I just ask you how he's progressed in general this season when you've seen him on the training pitch and he's got onto the pitch on match day?
Yes, he's progressing well. I think when we talk about whether people progress well or not, we think it's just automatically linked to positive performances. Sometimes it's about how he's developing as a person, how he's dealing with being a Premier League footballer, and he's doing that well. He's taking responsibility. He understands that he's got some things that he can improve, and he also knows the things that he does well, and it's about helping him with both. He's trying his best. He's had a frustrating season for a few reasons, but he's always fighting with the team. He's always with the boys, and while it's like that, we want to try and help him.
What are some of the things off the pitch that he can improve on then? I know you've said in the past he's quite hard on himself.
Well, he's only a young man, so he's learning. I look back to myself when I was his age, and I didn't know a lot of things, and maybe thought I did. But he's as I said before, he's taking responsibility. He's understanding himself more and more, understanding what it takes to be a Premier League footballer, how you have to deal with setbacks, you have to deal with disappointment and all those things, criticism that comes your way. It's if anything, they're the most important times of your career and your life. It's how you manage those disappointments. But at the same time, he has to constantly remember also that he does a lot of things really, really well, and he's got some attributes that are exciting for him, exciting for us. And just like any young person, young player, especially in the forward positions, it's about balancing the needs of the team and him and his development as a human being, and trying to help him, have a really, really good career.
On Aaron Connolly over the next while, that was Graham Potter in conversation with Eoin yesterday, and he got a nice shiner there, Eoin.
He did clarify that before my set of questions, that he was at the beach, obviously Brighton, nice seaside town, and he was walking up a set of stairs and slipped and whacked his face off, I think, the railing on the stairs. So he's very lucky he didn't go an inch higher. But as a fellow scar brandishing on one's face person, I can appreciate that scar from Graham Potter.
Happily, having announced Alfie Kiernan's issue with his immersion on our YouTube channel, we've had lots of responses. Liam Deegan says, knock it off with the fuse board. Now that you say it, it just all seems so obvious. Pull the fuse on the immersion, says Sargon. And then Brian C, turn it off with the fuse board. It could and probably will explode. I'm interested to know the latest developments of that immersion before we go off air this morning. But it is 8 coming up on 20 to 9 on this Friday morning. Do keep your comments coming into us on immersions or anything else you're having yourself. You're watching OTB AM, the sports breakfast show from Off the Ball. It's brought to you by Gillette. Every morning, a good morning start with Gillette, giving you the confidence to tackle the day ahead. John Duggan, good morning to you.
Adrian and Owen, how are we doing?
Who's going to be the new Spurs boss?
Don't really know, to be honest. Nagelsmann has been...
Who would you like to see?
Brendan Rodgers. It's not going to happen. Would like to see Brendan Rodgers take it, but I don't think he wants it. I don't think... The talk of Sarri as well.
Yeah.
But I'm just... I'm a little bit lethargic and despondent about it. I'm at now the base of expectations I would have been before Pochettino came into the club.
You're in the post European Super League blues stage, John.
Yeah, and that's pretty not a nice place to be, especially when the club you support is one of these 30 dozen, and you feel like, well, that wasn't great, was it? And I wish the club was sold now. To be honest, that's the way I feel about it. Right. I wish they'd sell the club and start afresh with new owners. But would they be any better, these new owners? I don't know.
That's the thing. And a fairly awful week for Tottenham. Did it begin with the Dulux dog? At what point of the week? I can't even remember now at what point the Dulux dog...
That was last week.
Was that last week?
Last Thursday.
But it's amazing that normally if Jose had been sacked this week, Jose would have dominated the week. Yeah. Edward were leaving Manchester United, so would have dominated the week. And you'd be asking, what's the direction is Manchester United going to take now? But all overshadowed by the 72-hour major story about the Super League. To me, it's about a lot of these clubs are bust in ways. They're not going to go under, but they're over leveraged and undercapitalized. I was looking at some debt figures here. Barcelona, 488 million euro. Real Madrid, 354 million euro. Juventus, 357 million. AC Milan, 103 million. And then sterling figures, Man United, 455 million. Spurs 600 million, Arsenal 100 million. That's your answer. That's why they went and tried to do the Super League thing. But they didn't. They were too arrogant and greedy to think about the fact that the world has changed. We're living in a pandemic. I think the world has turned left in people's attitudes. And just because they've had it so good through the Premier League and through the Champions League doesn't mean they can just rip it all up and go it alone without the support of the structure of football, the foundation, which is the people who pay for broadcasts deals through subscriptions and also pay to go to stadiums. I think they might have thought with the pandemic and actually, you know what, we can have this intergalactic 23rd century view of the fact that we don't even need fans. And we can just put everything on TV and play the games behind closed doors forever and have Real Madrid play Liverpool every week. But actually people are involved and human beings are involved. And football ain't the NFL. Regarding franchise models, and maybe they thought they could transfer that over to Europe, but it's a strange one. We don't live in a beautiful world just because the Super League has collapsed. I was looking at the titles won by clubs in the last few years around the 5 leagues. Bayern have won the last 8 in Germany. Juventus have won the last 9 in Italy. PSG won 7 of the last 8 in France. Since 2005, Man United, Man City, Liverpool and Chelsea won the leagues. And if you put Leicester in there, that was a freak. In Germany, the last 15 years, only Munich, Dortmund, Stuttgart and Wolfsburg have won titles. And Spain only once since 2005 have Real or Barcelona not won a title. Everton and West Ham are not going to win the Premier League, but it's still a competitive league and we can still accept that it's a really good league to watch. You will get your cold nights on Wednesday in Stoke. The Champions League is still an elite competition. But the world hasn't become beautiful. We still have the Qatars and the UAEs in Champions League semi-finals. So it's not a great situation that we currently find ourselves in. But we were, I think, at the acceptance of that being just under the tipping point, but the Super League brought it over the tipping point. And I think mainly because people have seen their lives turned upside down in the pandemic. A lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people are struggling. And then they're seeing this ostentatiousness and this greed and this disgraceful behaviour. And that's why people are up in arms about it.
Yeah, and those numbers might be the reason that it ain't dead yet, but we shall keep a watching brief on that. Some managerial movement here as well, JD, over the last while?
Well, Rory Higgins, has gone to Derry City. Now, people might have a narrative about this, that this is another blow for Stephen Kenny and it's another member of his backroom team and there's turmoil. It's not that way, right? It's Stephen Kenny and Rory Higgins get on great. Rory Higgins, I think, would see Kenny as somebody who's really accelerated his progress in the game. And he's just taken an opportunity. That opportunity is Derry City, 3.5-year deal to replace Declan Devine. They're bottom of the League of Ireland Premier Division. So that starts now. They play Sligo tomorrow. Big Dublin derby tonight, Shamrock Rovers and Bows. We also have Pat's going to Finn Harps, Arsenal, Everton in the Premier League this evening, 8 o'clock start. Leicester might not blow it this year. They did last year, but they might not this year after that 3-0 win over West Brom in the Premier League last night. What else is going on? Ronnie O'Sullivan, how will he be today? You never know. Anthony McGill, 4 frames apiece. They're tied in the World Championship in the last 16. John Higgins, Mark Williams this afternoon. That's, if you got an afternoon off, that'll be definitely worth watching. Graham McDowell and Matt Wallace teaming together in the Zurich Classic of New Orleans. 6 under par in the team format, 4 shots off the lead. Ulster against Connacht in the Rainbow Cup. I know, Adrian, you'll be glued into that one this evening in Belfast at Kingspan Stadium. Horse racing today at Cork and Kilbeggan. But I'm just expecting, I'm sure there'll be another few twists and turns with UEFA, with the European Super League, with the fallout of it. We'll be having a lot of chat about it, obviously, on Football Saturday tomorrow on OTB with David Myler, Johnny Ward, Dan McDonald. We'll be also doing a review of the week. And Dublin expected to be stripped of those games at the Euros, possibly today, a formal announcement of, well, what we all know is going to happen.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on that, and you can stay tuned to OTB Sports social channels over the day for more on that. JD, thanks a million. Thanks for that update. Thanks a lot. And a reminder, of course, that my cheese board and wine season, Owen, is not over just yet. It's got one final kick in it. I don't care if it's just a Rainbow Cup. It's coming out this weekend.
What is the wine and cheese of choice?
Generally a Tempranillo or a Rioja, Grenache maybe, in terms of the wine, and then really anything.
Pretend I know what those 3 things are.
Anything they're all sort of Spanish wines with a bit of depth to them on.
Depth is key.
And then whatever cheese you're having yourself, a bit of fruit kind of crucial to it. I was having this conversation with Joe Malloy the other night on the radio. A bit of fruit is crucial to it. Maybe a bit of apple, a bit of grapes, a bit of chutney if you're feeling adventurous. Somebody had texted in that night to say a bit of quince with it, which is like a little jelly. So yeah, anything like that really.
And then, sorry, whatever cheese you're having yourself, so literally you'll just go in and just buy blocks.
Yeah, generally try and do a bit of mix of hard and soft cheese. That's kind of just keep it fresh, you know what I mean? Bit of blue cheese in there if you're feeling particularly adventurous of a night. Yeah. Right.
Okay, I'm gonna absolutely get on that.
So just a quick update on the Merchant situation of Alfie Kiernan, which is the other developing story for you this morning. Somebody was suggesting, Michael Garrity says, turn on your hot tap and let the water run off. He says he's watching in from Sweden. Great show, lads. Good morning to you, Michael. And another suggestion there. Somebody who said they were thinking of installing a solar panel. I'm wondering if there's any power storage systems that we could recommend. Well, I mean, we might need to come back to you on that one because there's certainly nothing off the top of the head. But, you know, we might do a bit of research and come back to you on that. It's 8:48. It's Friday morning. You are watching a sports show, by the way. It's OTB AM, brought to you by OTB Sports. And JD mentioned what's coming up over the weekend briefly there, but a full flavour of that with John himself in the hot seat tomorrow from 1 o'clock, right across Off the Ball and News Talk. Alison Miller is going to be watching Ireland-Italy for us. It'll be an hour old by the time we get to air in the final Six Nations game, that playoff for third. Saturday panel this week, it's the Week in Review. Dave McIntyre, Michael Verney and Timmy McCarthy will be John's guest for that. From 2:30, it's Ireland's next motorsports superstar, 22-year-old Kildare man James Rowe, chatting to John there. And then Football Saturday all the way from 3 o'clock, David Myler, Johnny Ward and Dan, as you mentioned. And then Sunday from 1, Joe Malloy will be joined by Grania McElwain and Kieran Cunningham for the paper review. We'll have a feature interview with Kevin McStay there as well, and live Premier League commentary of Leeds United against Manchester United, and that'll be Stephen Doyle and Brian Kerr watching all of that. And before we catch up with Alan Quinlan, here is Kaylee Trapp back on OTB, and it means that Micah Richards and Roy Keane are back. Take a look and enjoy.
To do this dance before, usually have to load a Bacardi and Coke. He's nervous. I can tell.
I'm nervous. I'm not nervous.
Do you think he should be? Well, he always seems to be nervous when he's working with me. I don't know,
Typical United making excuses, eh?
I wish they'd done it earlier in the season when they were having real problems. But yeah, it does affect players, certainly, when you're passing the ball quickly.
Oh, you actually say it affects players?
Well, I played midfield, Mika, and obviously things happen pretty quickly in there. It's just common sense. If you got the colour in the background, it does affect them, of course. Why do you think they've changed it?
I mean, look at the fall from grace, the Premier League, Champions League, and now he's moaning about banners.
I'm not moaning about it. Common sense. Fall from grace.
Are you going to be banning fans turning up in home shirts next? What are you going to be doing?
That is the brilliant Kaylee Trapp there. Another brilliant lip sync with the lads. You can find Kaylee on TikTok, and while you're there, you can search for Off the Ball as well and pick that up. It turns out on, we just can't get enough.
The Dave Jones is my favourite part there. It always is. She just has it off to an absolute tee, and it's the cup of tea in Dave Jones's hand. Like, I mean, it's all brilliant.
Yeah, and the remote control, it is good stuff, and I'm sure we'll have plenty more of that to come over the next... Well, there was a couple of papers that we didn't mention earlier on, just before we get to Quinny for you, and the Irish Examiner being one of them. Why staying put is moving forward. This is Ronan O'Gara's column. Obviously, we heard from a little bit earlier on. You can check out that full piece if you head up to otbsports.com, up on our YouTube channel as well. That is his innermost thoughts on that new contract signing at slightly new role at La Rochelle. Obviously, Alan Quinlan, good morning to you.
Morning, lads. How are you?
Good. No great surprise, obviously, for anybody who's paying attention to him over the last while, that he's signed up. Slightly new role, and just fascinating times ahead for him over the next 3 years.
Yeah, it is. I think it's not a surprise. I think, and it kind of puts to bed any talk of a return to Ireland in any form. So it's a great deal for him. It's a great opportunity for him now to even add more control, to be the sole man running the rugby program on and off the field. So it's a good move for him. He's enjoying it. I think I listened to him this morning. You were trying to probe him and get more stuff out of him for next week's game and certain things he'll be doing. But it's a great testament to what he's doing in France and the way he's respected and what he's achieved. But that can all change very quickly. As Roger knows this himself. You lose matches, you go on a bad run, things change. But he seems to have an ability to keep improving and be popular amongst players and fans alike. So I think La Rochelle will be delighted he's staying with them, and there's a lot of excitement coming out about what he can do and what he has done so far with the team.
It's a slightly new brief for him, and like even listening to him this morning, he is reluctant very much, I think, to give up any of that coaching thing. He's still very eager to continue to do that, but that slightly new role, Quinny, like it's a bit of a departure for him, obviously, and it's a bit more of a, like, I mean, I use the Alex Ferguson reference in some ways, in that like you want to try and maintain control of as much as you possibly can. It'll come with its own challenges.
Yeah, it will. He'll need a good PA to do all the paperwork for him, because he'll be useless at that stuff. I think he's not going to be useless at it. He'll kill me for saying that, but he's more interested in what's happening out on the field and actually the hands-on coaching role, and that doesn't surprise me from knowing and playing with him for so long. That's what excites him. That's what kind of motivates him, and that's where he can make real change and implement his ideas and what he wants players individually to do. He's a great eye for body language, for attitudes, for just the tempo of the whole training session, and that's what he loves. That's what his biggest strength is. He will need someone, and obviously, he needs support in that role. You do need admin people. You do need people to do the paperwork, the emails, the hotels, the all that kind of planning and stuff like that. But he'll be the decision maker behind them. So you need a good team around you to run any sort of an organisation, and that's a bigger job, a bigger role for him now. So he'll handle that no problem. It is a different type of pressure when you're dealing with the whole running of a club, academies, contracts, the planning of the season, dealing with the president,
Yeah, like it is hard. It is hard to do all of that, isn't it? And then maintain that. That's like the first thing to go in that is, I was to take a session today, but really important that I do this other stuff over here that I can't avoid. So I'll just give that session to somebody else. Now, I'm simplifying it there, but that can at times be the first thing to go.
It is, and it's. I think it'll be hard for him to let go of that stuff because, as I said, he wants to be out in the field. That's where he can implement that change and be right at the coalface all the time, up close and personal with players. There's lots of director of rugbies. When Rassie Erasmus went to Limerick first, at times he didn't even go out to some of the sessions because he was doing some of the planning behind the scenes and he wasn't trying to step on Axel's toes, and it's a different type of role, whereas John O'Gibbs probably would have been doing a lot of the planning and structural stuff behind, of course, watching over everything that's going on, but not every day out in the field with the players. He's got to do both now, so you need a good team manager, you need a good team around him, so that he'd be very conscious and aware of that, and that's where you need people behind the scenes who are good at the planning stuff and putting structures, and they'll have lots of meetings about rugby meetings, but also structural meetings about the whole club, and so it's an added role, and one that is great that he's getting that experience doing that now, because if he did come back to Ireland and he took he's Ireland head coach or head coach in one of the provinces, that's the full package here, and I had seen that in my time. The change in some of the coaches and that added pressure didn't suit them. It's a lot to take on, and there's no doubt about it. There's, you hear lots of the coaches, and I heard Leo Cullen saying this before, you're in it 6:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, and, you might be doing the on-field session till 10 o'clock. So you're 3 or 4 hours planning and doing other stuff before you're out on the field with the team, and then you're back in again for team meetings, and you could be out again, or there could be more stuff in the afternoons, and then you're kind of wrapping up, reviewing the day, and there's so many things going on that it is a big job, and there's a lot of commitment required. But as I said, it's once you delegate well, and you need a team, and all these coaches need teams behind them and people who are helping and supporting. So a good team manager is vital in that situation, and then admin people who are doing all that paperwork stuff behind, and the planning and putting stuff together that Roger wants. But look, he won't be daunted by that. He'll have seen it, known it, and it's how you deal with that. As I said, I've seen coaches before who were fantastic on the field, and they could just focus on the rugby sessions and the planning of those and the reviewing of those. But then you add in all the other stuff, and it can be heavy going. It can be heavy lifting, particularly if things start to unravel a bit and results go wrong. You've got to look deeper into the structural organisation of the organisation. But again, it's just down to good supports and having good team people around you. And it's one of the things that I would have heard Rassie Erasmus speak a lot about since South Africa won the World Cup, and he had that success with them, what he learned in Ireland about the structures, the way the players take ownership, and the structure in all the provinces here, and how he took some of that stuff back to South Africa and really realised about the importance of getting good people around you. That's the key to that. And knowing Ronan the way I do, he's very, very big on good people around him, people he can trust, people he can rely on to do the job and put their shoulder to the wheel. So that's an important part of it. And it's not any rocket science that I'm saying here. I think I need the teams, the good organisations that run well, know that, and they're the kind of structures that they have in place. So I presume he'll be well supported with that kind of situation, and that he'll still have time to have the on-field coaching stuff, which, as he said to you this morning, that's where he wants to be. That's where he needs to be, out in the field, because that's where he gets the adrenaline rush and the buzz himself.
Yeah, well, look, it does seem unthinkable that at some point he won't rock up at, you said one of the provinces there, I think at Munster at some point fairly soon. So we'll keep watching.
You don't think he'd take the Leinster job, no?
I think he's in the Simon Zebo camp in that one. So we'll see what happens. As Eoin said, it is at least, at the very least, it'll stop us all talking about it for the next 2 years at least, I would think, before it starts to bubble up again. A couple of on-field bits to get into, Quinny. Obviously, Ireland-Italy tomorrow, third place playoff in Donnybrook, 12 o'clock kickoff. 3 changes from last weekend. And speaking of the unthinkable, Claire Malloy's been dropped out of the squad entirely, and Adam Grigg saying that she needs to go, and there's some areas of her game to work on, but she's been such a totem for that team over the last number of years. She's almost every game that you see her play, she's player of the game. This is a big departure now, isn't it?
It's a big decision, and it's a decision that Adam Griggs is obviously, he's to do that to an experienced player. It comes to a situation that everyone gets into that situation. I suppose, look, she's paid the price for last week. There's 3 changes to the team. Stacey Flood comes in at 10 as well, and Brittany Hogan and Amy Lee Murphy, who I have to mention because she's a Tipperary town woman as well, so she's very close to home. My mum meets her mum every day, so if I don't mention her, I'll be in big trouble. Yeah. Very important, but she's incredibly exciting. That's her first start. She's from the 7th Circuit, and there was the strength of this team probably is the ability to get the ball to Baby Parsons, and get a bit of wit in their game, and Emer Considine and stuff like that. But Amy Lee Murphy is a flyer as well, and she's incredibly quick. So hopefully she can play well. Last week wasn't good for her. She got a yellow card after being on the field for a short period of time. Her mum my mum was able to say to her during the week, she said of the disappointment, oh God, she just came on the field and got a yellow card. And my mother was able to say, well, yeah, I know how you're feeling.
I can empathise with all of that.
Yeah, I know how you're feeling. But look, it's going back to what you said about the changes. Coaches make these decisions, and if it works, it's about getting strength and depth. She's been around for a long time, and it'll be disappointing for her. She's not in the 23. It's how she reacts to that, and I hope she comes back and reacts in a positive way. I had to deal with that plenty of times in my career, where you have the disappointments, those kind of disappointments, and it's how you react to them. And there's still a World Cup hopefully to play for those qualifiers, so it's a big game from tomorrow. I think, given the mistakes, the frustration probably from last week amongst themselves. And that's when you review the game and look at it, there's a lot of stuff that you think can be fixed and that could have been avoided. And the key tomorrow, if they've any chance of getting a result, is about, getting their fundamentals and set piece and limiting the mistakes and not giving away 20 penalties, because very few teams win matches at any level in rugby where you give away 20 penalties. So I'm sure it would have been a huge amount of stuff to process in the review for them, but I think they're better than what they showed last week, and hopefully they respond and do that tomorrow and get a result.
Yeah, and I know that you were in conversation with Valerie yesterday on our Women's Six Nations show, yourself and Niamh Briggs, and there are more. People can head along to otbsports.com for more in-depth chat on that as well. We do want to get your thoughts, obviously, on the Rainbow Cup going ahead, Quinny, and Leinster v Munster tomorrow. It's like everybody's sort of slightly cynical about it now, maybe more so that the South African teams have pulled out. But
do you know what frustrates me most, Adrian, about this is, we've 3 rounds of fixtures, and where do we go to from there? Like, there's been 3 or 4 days for them to come out with some sort of a structure to say, this is what's going to happen. Like, we've been told there's 6 rounds of fixtures and then a final. How does that work? Do you randomly pick who you play after the derby matches? There's a credibility issue around that. Both these teams should have been. There should have been a potential. Look, you can't split them into two groups now. Well, you can split them into 2 groups of 6, play 5 matches, and then have a semi-final and a final. At least you'll generate some bit of spark towards the end of it. Whoever loses tomorrow could potentially be out of the running to win it. The game is tonight. Ulster and Connacht are tonight. Why haven't we got some sort of a structure? I know this stuff is a bit more complicated, and they've been blindsided a little bit by this Pro 14. But you know, we've 3 derby matches. We've nothing to talk about after that. Like, where do we go to from then? Where are the fixtures? How is this going to work? We have 12 teams now in the competition. The South African teams are gone. We've 12 teams, and we've 3 rounds of fixtures. Where to from there? Like 6 rounds. You work it out. You were probably better at maths in school than me. But
if
how do you play
that's not a good reflection on you.
How do you play 6 fixtures and then a final?
Well, unless it's some sort of a round robin situation where they've, like, it's a league situation almost, or some sort of a.
But some sort of a what?
I mean, I know exactly.
That's the problem. That's my issue. So we're starting tonight with Ulster Connacht from the Irish derbies. So if Ulster Connacht lose tonight, are they out of the running then? You know, do you have to win 6 games here to get to a final? Who do you play on round 4, 5 and 6, and how do they choose that? Because I think the simple thing would have been here, split them into, obviously you'd have to keep the 4 Irish teams in one group, but split them into 2 6s, because those derby matches are fixed now, and there's derbies in Wales and Scotland and Italy. Split them into 2 groups of 6, and at least play 5 games then in that group of 6. And then have a semi-final and a final. So basically two out of each 6 come out. And that gives a reasonable chance, if you lose a game or 2, that you still might get into the semi-final. You might finish second in the pool. If someone goes on a run here and wins their first 3 games, well, there's every chance that they're going to be making a final. And how do you get to the 3, 4 and 5, 6 fixture? Do you know what I mean? Do you randomly pick, after the interpros, do you randomly pick teams out of the 12? I don't know. See, like, it's even complicated thinking about this, and it's kind of frustrating, because I think we've been denied a chance, people who speak about it and people who work in the media, to give this an opportunity. And okay, there's loads of questions. That hindsight's a great thing. I was excited about the Rainbow Cup and the intrigue of the South Africans coming in, because I think it would have been great to see how see what kind of teams they would have sent. Were we going to get the strong South African World Cup winners, the Super Rugby level, and how the Irish provinces in particular do against them. Loads of guys playing for Lions places. The South Africans playing for Lions selection as well with South Africa. Irish tour, Irish players trying to get on an Irish tour, stuff like that. Guys trying to prove a point, finish the season strong. There's loads of motivation for the players here. If I was a player in any of the teams, I'd be said, you know, we're coming towards the end of April. There's 6 or 8 weeks of rugby left. Let's go. I want to play. I want to play rugby, and I want to get out there, and I want to try and win the trophy. It's hard for the fans to kind of get really excited about this, but there's there's lots of motivation there, individual, collective motivation. Right throughout this, but we know we know what the first 3 rounds are, and I just think there's nothing online about it. There's nothing on the Pro 14 about it.
No, they say rounds 4, 5, and 6 had already been scheduled and provided to the clubs, but will now have the South African teams.
Why didn't they rush this week to
maybe modify ahead of publishing?
Well, why didn't they rush this week? We can't start a competition and suddenly they choose some format that maybe will work. You know, maybe I'm just being harsh here in the Pro 14, but like, get it done this week before a ball is kicked tonight. Get some sort of a
shouldn't be that
complicated.
It's fair enough. Yeah.
No, well, there's a simple solution. Keep the Irish provinces in one group, because we're playing interpros now. Add 2 more to that, maybe the 2 Italians, whatever, and keep the rest as the other 6. Play 5 rounds and have a semi-final and a final, and there's your 7 fixtures. And you have the excitement of a semi-final and a final situation that at least, you know, like I say, if you lose a game or 2 here, you're out. It's gone. It's over. What happens with the other 4 fixtures then? You know, how are teams going to approach them? So there's a danger here that this could, you know, of course, I'll be looking forward to seeing the derby games this weekend and next weekend, the first 3 rounds, because there's always an intrigue from an Irish point of view. How guys approach them and what kind of teams are selected and all that kind of stuff, and different sort of battles. and a chance for players to lay down a marker for next season as well. But where do we go to from there? And that's the frustration for me. I can't even explain this to you, which is a frustrating thing. I'd love to be able to say, and I understand that they were probably blindsided is the wrong word, because this was always a potential that this could happen. There should have been an alternative plan to say, if the South Africans are gone, here's the structure. You know, I know it's down to the, you know, the TV as well and scheduling and picking times and all that stuff, but I find it hard to start the competition when we don't know where you're going for round 4, 5 or 6 and how it's going to work.
Fair to say you wonon't be going to the Munster homecoming parade when they're the inaugural Rainbow Cup winners?
I will. If they beat Leinster, I'll be there.
The drought will be over. I mightn't be welcome, but I'll be there. I'll be in the background. No, of course I'd love to see Munster go and win it. They have a chance tomorrow to atone for a disappointing result against a very good side in the final, and that's reality. And I'm sure more than anyone themselves, they would have been more disappointed that they never got to play and implement their own kind of game on Leinster, who were, you know, at a level that's very difficult to compete with when they're on song like that. But they've got James Ryan, probably Gary Ringrose, Caelan Doris maybe back in the mix tomorrow, which would make them stronger. But you know, they'll probably have an eye on next week. They'd say they wouldn't, and they're probably able to cope and deal with that kind of a scenario. And it's kind of a warm-up game for them, but it's still a big match, and it's Munster have to, I suppose, make sure that they go and play at least and fire those shots that maybe they didn't a few weeks ago. It's still going to be very difficult to beat Leinster, and any team would struggle against them. But, you know, I'd be excited about that. But I wish I knew the situation that if Munster were to lose tomorrow night, does that rule them out? Are they gone? Can they make a final then after that? You know, where does it leave them? What do they have to do after that to get into the kind of the knockout stage as the semi-final or a final? Well, there's no semi-final at the moment. They're saying it's just a final. So that's probably the frustrating part for me.
Yeah, all right. We'll see. You might not have to worry about it, Quinny. There could be 1 from 1. We'll see how we go tomorrow evening and tonight as well between Connacht and Ulster. Thanks a million.
Cheers, lads. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Alan Quinlan on the line there as always on a Friday. Pick through his thoughts on a Monday, of course, as well. A couple of comments coming in. Brian King, Arsenal fan, happy to take a points deduction. Relegation to the Championship would not be an unfair punishment. I mean, as you've mentioned earlier on, it might not be a punishment at all. It might be just a reality at some point. Stephen Byrne, hey guys, great show as always. Epic news about our two of our own, Raj and also John O'Gibbs moving to his new role as head coach at Clermont Auvergne. Can't wait for both of them to return to Ireland at some point. Gibbs back to manage Leinster, O'Gara at Munster eventually, and also either individually or collectively for Ireland at the top job in the future. And Andrew Garrity wonders if there's any updates on the immersion. Hashtag me nerves. It's definitely the one thing that's occupying the thoughts of a lot of our YouTube commenters this morning. It is a good day as well, by the way, coming up on OTB Sports Radio over the course of the day from 1 o'clock. You're going to have the Paddy Power half hour. That's coming up later. And then 3 o'clock Friday Night Racing will be live. 4 o'clock Team 33 Legends interview with Alan Keane in the hot seat there. OTB Gold is Joe Malloy in conversation with Ruby. 7 o'clock, OTB live on your radio and online as well. And then at 9 o'clock, it'll be Team 33 live tonight with Enda Culm and Will O'Callaghan. So lots of good stuff there on OTB Sports Radio over the course of the day. The crappy quiz will be coming away very shortly. But before all of that, this Monday, golf courses around Ireland are going to reopen. But should their members get something back from their clubs for the time that they've missed? The lads in Golf Weekly discussed.
Should clubs be offering something though? If you have paid your full membership, should there be initiatives when people are coming back? I don't know, Peter, were clubs, in touch with people like you who would come on and do a Zoom call for members on a Tuesday night, just things to keep people involved rather than, well, listen lads, we can do, keep paying, we'll open when we can open it. You can, I think everyone has found over the last week or so, trying to even get out over the next few weeks is pretty difficult because everybody wants to get back in the rules and regulations around 2 different households and all that. So,
but isn't it 13 for 12 months that Car Golf is doing on their golf courses? In some cases, some golf courses are taking your subs, and rather than just putting 100 behind onto your bar tab, they're putting 200 there are little incentives, because it's not just a binary thing. It's just that it's not, whereas in normal times, we take your money, we put X amount for your, whatever, for your bar tab or whatever it's called on your card. And then the rest of it goes in your fees. That coming back, we can take account of the fact that you haven't been playing golf for the guts of a year or more. So therefore, we can add a little extra to the bar tab, or we can, as you say, Nathan, incentivize the return. So you don't feel like, what you really want is a gesture that recognizes the ultimate sacrifices that all golfers have made over the last year. And I think if those gestures can be made without necessarily jeopardizing the future of the golf course, and one of the points, Nathan, you made, I think is really important. It's all well and good to say, well, we're going to reimburse like 8 months of your year fee, but 6 months down the line, we're going to have to let 2 greenkeepers go because we just can't afford to keep them on. And therefore the greens get woollier, and all of a sudden the golf course isn't in the same pristine condition as you expect it to be. So, I think that's the balancing act that a lot of golf courses have to face.
Mm. Yeah, if it was me and I owned a golf course, I'd be, well, particularly because it's members only for the first 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, and majority of golf courses are 9 holes only, especially in Dublin, because people can't get on tee sheets. Like, give all the members a burger after 9 holes outside, you know what I mean?
That would do for me, and I have to say the lads are obviously playing at far better golf courses than I am, because the idea that they'd be in pristine condition one way or the other wouldn't be a great factor in my enjoyment or the outcome, I suspect, either way. But that is the lads over in Golf Weekly, and it's now available on Patreon, where you can get a whole load of extras, guaranteed pods every week, and major watch-alongs. And we'll have a PGA Championship coming not that too far into the future, and member-only Discord channels as well, and that is alive with conversation 24/7, and a great place to go and hang out if you're into your golf. And by the way, obviously Father's Day upcoming as well, so it also makes a pretty neat present. You can head along to otbsports.com/Golf Weekly. You can get signed up for a cost of $3.99 a month. Plus VAT, and that's where you get the good stuff. It's gone at 9:15. It's on this Friday morning. If you missed anything from the show today or at all this week, you can catch it all back on the OTB AM podcast and OTB AM, live in association with Gillette. Good mornings start with Gillette, giving you the confidence to tackle the day ahead. We're back after these. It's the crappy quiz.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
OTB.
Don't shoot.
Oh, he dinged it. Oh! It's a goal! It's a goal! What a ball! Oh, 15 seconds left. That is amazing.
OTB live commentary. Never miss the action right here on OTB Sports Radio. Keep up to date with the latest scores on the OTB Sports app. The OTB Sports app. Live score updates straight to your phone.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
Chris Bond.
Oh, you're kidding me. September. Kyle Lafferty.
Are you joking me?
Is that right? I know it's not right. Anybody else? Leash, was it?
Like, that is one of the most stupid questions.
Darius Vassell? Seriously, you all need to just stay quiet. This is getting really annoying doing this quiz.
What is going on here?
Welcome along to the shoutiest segment on Irish radio. It's the scintillating, it's the stupefying, it's the splendido crappy quiz. Every Friday, we pit 3 of team off the ball up against each other in a no-holds-barred quiz of sporting factoids at the end of the week. Allow me to welcome today's contestants. Our first contestant today is delighted that inter-county training was back this week, which means he got to the ground early, tugged out away from his teammates and kept the head down for the first few drills. He's the newest member of the Meath County panel, except Andy McEntee just doesn't know him yet. Give it up for the Meath Hill Billy, Tommy Rooney.
How are things? News to me too, Owen.
You didn't get the joke.
No, I didn't.
What was the name of the guy who joined the Man United team shot? Carl something or other? He was before a Champions League game. It was the 10th anniversary of it this week, I think. That's why that springs to mind. What?
20th anniversary.
20th anniversary. 20th.
Yeah.
You're dead right. Of course it was. Yeah. Jesus.
It was those lovely white kits. I don't know what his name was, Jer.
That's you. Carl something or other.
Yeah.
Tommy Rooney's going
I've never
I've never snuck into a team photo with the Meath Intercounty senior team.
No, you're just sneaking into training. That's the gag. And I've had to explain it. So you've ruined already. The show is nearly ruined because I've had to explain Owen's first joke to you, Tommy.
I was having a lovely week until this. You are the Ali Dia of Meath football when you appear in a championship game, Tommy. I'm looking forward to it. Our next contestant has had to dump 2 tons of Boerewors and 2 tons of chakalaka this week with the news that the South African teams won't be travelling to Ireland in the Rainbow Cup. Instead, he's getting ready to watch Leinster 24, Munster 15 for the 42nd consecutive time. It is Neil, that's Limerick City, Tracy.
Yep, very much looking forward to another Leinster and Munster game. Can't wait.
These intros are going very well this morning. It's been a long week.
You're just hitting a lot of nerves. You're hitting a lot of nerves.
I didn't have time to put a lot of thought.
What are those South African meats you've just introduced us to?
Boerewors is a type of sausage. Chakalaka is more of a dish, isn't it? It's kind of like a spicy dish. Okay. I'm sure people at home will be familiar with them. Our last contestant today has had important business meetings all week, which is why you won't have seen him on OTB AM much. What exciting new sporting project could possibly have taken him away from his work between Sunday and Tuesday? Give it up for the artist formerly known as the Mustachioed Menace, Ger Gilroy.
Oh, I get what you're doing there. Yeah, I was partly responsible for the farrago that was the ESL.
How much?
I still think it could work. I'm the last one clinging on here. I'm in the office going, here, listen, if I just send this one email, they'll all change their minds.
How many of us would have to lose our jobs for OTB to get rights to the Super League?
Oh, none.
Okay.
I think that the radio rights for that might not have been as expensive as everybody thought in the first place.
As ever, the format is the classic crappy quiz with a series of questions on a range of themes, and it's on to the slip and slide of trivia, which is the rapid fire round. You can podcast the crappy quiz on otbsports.com or on the OTB Sports app. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to click the thumbs up. Round 1 is the boring questions round. It is never multiple choice. Tommy, Orla O'Dwyer became the second AFLW player to win the championship down under. Who was the first?
It's been a while since I've been on the quiz, lads, and
I know.
I have to be honest, I was nervous. I was a little nervous coming back into this one.
Now you're
felt like I
filibustering.
hadn't done much prep. Edith Considine.
Correct. Well done, Tommy. 1 from 1. Neil.
How did he just work that out at the end of a sentence? I'm very suspicious that there's a Googler in the background there, Tommy. Off camera.
Nah, Jer, come on. You've been accusing me of cheating for many years now, and it's all been unfounded.
If the cap
it
fits.
has never come to fruition.
Well, how did you talk yourself into that? I'm nervous about this Irish Considine. How did that work? Just talk us through the inside of your brain there.
Jer, many people played a crappy quiz at home. I was just giving them a chance to come up with the answer to themselves before I got the right answer in.
What's that mysterious shadow on the wall behind you, Tommy?
Yeah.
That just come from my new ring light, Neil. That's all right.
Okay.
That's why he's cherubic this week.
Neil, question 1 for you. Who was the last Irishman to be the top test point scorer in a British and Irish Lions tour?
Top test point scorer on a Lions tour.
Mm-hmm.
I guess 2005.
Who?
It's not a year.
Oh, who? Sorry, yeah.
Not
2005, anthropomorphic, not a person. First answer only. Play the music.
I did you say what year? All right. Well, no, actually, it probably wasn't 2005.
Oh, you got come on.
Where's Jojo?
Ralph Keys. It's not Ralph Keys. Anyone?
Sexton?
No, it's Ali Campbell.
Right.
1983. Sure.
That was tough.
That was a tough one, yeah.
Yeah.
According to Forbes, who was the most valuable football club in the world at the start of this year?
Come on. You're giving the man with the Super League inside knowledge. Super League question.
Real Madrid?
No. Their second, Barcelona.
No way.
$4.76
They're
billion.
$1 billion in debt. Mr. Forbes, what's wrong with you? They're $1 billion in debt.
Real Madrid very close behind $4.75 billion. Bayern Munich, Manchester United, Liverpool complete the top 5. Round 2.
What do Forbes know? Didn't they slander the whole city of Limerick recently?
It's true. Don't mention Forbes around Neil Tracy, is what I've been told. Round 2 is the Dirty Dozen round. It has been a seismic week in European club football as the European Super League caused continental consternation. See what I did there? This round will test your knowledge in our new overlords, the founding members of the European Super League. Tommy, can you name the two clubs? Actually, I wrote this before the Super League capitulated on Tuesday. So can you name the two clubs of the 12 former European Super League founding members that have won neither the Champions League nor the Europa League?
Arsenal and
time's up.
Spurs.
No, it's not Spurs. It's Manchester City.
Oh
my God.
Jesus. Why did I listen to Jer? I should have taken another second to think about it. I can't believe I walked myself into Spurs.
We've done about 3 or 4 weeks now where both Nathan and Jer have been missing from the crappy quiz, and everything's just been going along smoothly. Nobody's been.
I heard they were very boring.
That was dirty.
They were dull. There was no pace to them. It was like there was something missing.
It was like dirty, Jer.
It was like it was one of those old record players. You remember what they? Do you know what they are? It's like a thing, a piece of vinyl. You put it on the thing. It was like you had it playing at the wrong speed or something. But look, don't worry. Normal services resumed. Let's go.
Yeah, this is a game of psychological warfare, and one of the warlords of psychology is back in the room. Neil, Bayern Munich were the big absentees from the Big 12 in the European Super League with 6 European Cups to their name. But can you tell me who is next on the Champions League Roll of Honour of those that were not in that list of 12
that's
clubs?
a good question.
Of those that weren't in the
12.
It's a
the
good
Big
question.
12. Right. Let's see. Jesus.
Limerick City.
Give us the question again for those of us that didn't hear it on.
Empha.
Bayern Munich, the big absentees from the Big 12 in the European Super League with 6 European Cups to their name. But who's next on the Champions League Roll of Honour of those that weren't in the 12?
Derry City.
This is easy. Jer, stop now. Come on.
What are you talking about? Stop.
This is petty.
Ajax.
Correct.
Come on.
Good job, Neil. Well done.
That was pretty easy, in fairness. They did win.
Once I actually thought about it, it became easy. It was one of those ones where you hear the question, you're like, oh, and then you actually think about it for 20 seconds.
For a
and you're
split
like,
second.
Yeah.
For a split second, Nottingham Forest creeps into. You're like, what is that?
And then you've got Marseille, Red Star.
Marseille obviously had theirs stripped, so that they wouldn't have counted.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Which of the 12 founding members has won their own domestic league the most amount of times?
Time.
Which of the 12 founding members has won their domestic league the most amount of times? So this is either going to be Real Madrid or Juventus. And
Probably. Although Juventus had a couple of titles stripped off them, didn't they?
Juventus.
Correct.
What are the numbers?
The numbers I do not have to hand, but I did have them to hand yesterday when I went through them. 30-something, is it?
Are they much ahead? Is it close?
It was close, yeah. 36 league titles.
Was it Real Madrid second?
Does that include?
Real Madrid were second, yeah.
To get all that information out there. So
all the accurate information. You're doing a great job at fulfilling Nathan Murphy's role as chief, talking about everything he knows before answering the question.
There you go.
It is 1-1 as we enter round 3, which is the voices of the Dirty Dozen round. That's right, we're going again on the week's biggest sports story. This round I'll play you the voice of someone that was centrally involved in the European Super League, and all you got to do is tell me who it is. Tommy, who is this?
This is not something that just popped up. This has been a long time coming, a lot of discussions, a lot of work, a lot of groundwork laid. And, you know, the feedback from fans over the last 24 hours has been really positive.
Wow.
So you're telling me this is one of the owners?
You didn't say anything like that, Tommy. You stop.
Give us the question. Give us the question one more time, on, because I just want to hear the
voice
question.
centrally involved. That was it.
Yeah, a voice of someone that was centrally involved in the European Super League.
Listen to the questions, Tommy.
Was that? Oh, it's either your bucko from Spurs, who I don't know. I'm going to say Stan Kroenke.
It's not Stan Kroenke.
Bruce Buck?
It's not Bruce Buck.
Right. That's tricky.
It's Joel Glazer.
Was it?
Go away. Was it Glazer?
It sounded way too young. Joel
Glazer's got a young voice.
It's a bit ageist there, Neil, you know?
Well, I didn't know what Joel Glazer sounded like.
I'm honest.
Good
question, Owen.
For Neil.
That was a good one.
I should say the answer that's written on the paper here is actually the wrong answer, but we'll have a listen to the clip anyway.
It's a proposal that is in the interest of all, and it is a good proposal. What matters to us are the principles.
So who is that, Neil?
Is that... I'm thinking it's Ceferin.
It's not Alexander Ceferin.
It had to be one of the Europeans, but they don't have... he certainly didn't have a stereotypical accent. Is that Agnelli?
It is Agnelli. That is the voice of Agnelli.
Not very...
I thought it was Ceferin talking about UEFA's own proposal.
Not very Italo-English, was it?
No, it sounded very Champions League magazine.
It sounded very... It did sound like I've been at boarding school in Germany for a long time learning English.
Yeah, that guy could announce a draw, that voice. Ger.
Yeah.
Have a listen to this.
The really nice thing is the way the community in the city has treated the team, treated me, treated our organization, and it's been really a wonderful, gratifying experience, really.
What?
That's a great voice.
Come on, Jer. Who is it?
Okay, so it's been a
your
really
big talk.
wonderful, gratifying experience, the way the people in the city have treated me. It doesn't sound like, but there's only one available answer left to me at this stage. I mean, I'd be very surprised. It couldn't be Bruce Buck. So it doesn't sound like John W. Henry, but that's my answer.
It's not John W. Henry. He wasn't your only available answer. You had one other answer left.
Who?
What American owner moved his NFL team?
Kroenke. But there's people. The people of London aren't people of. You. Douche.
Round 4. It's still 1-1. Nothing went your way in the voice of the Dirty Dozen round. Round 4.
Good round, Owen.
Thank you, Tommy.
Old Stan Kroenke, eh?
Yeah,
the
old Stan
Missourian.
Kroenke.
I should have just worked that out.
Married to the heiress of the Walmart.
Dave! Wow, their kids are going to be pretty rich, aren't they?
But I was doing a look back saying, how did Kroenke actually make his money? He obviously made his money with a lot of good property investments.
But he actually married it. That's the way. That's the real way.
That was just my very quick crash course. I'm sure somebody at home knows
That's
a
a
lot
lesson
more
at
about,
home, kids.
Kroenke.
Marry well.
Marry well indeed, and marry early. Round 4 is the fun-free magic number round. Contestants get 3 points for getting the number exactly right. If no one manages that, the nearest contestant who doesn't go bust gets 2 points. The second closest gets 1 point. I'm going to say that we can only accept the answer that's written on your paper. I'm also going to have to ask for your pens once the music ends. So if you don't mind, give us the following number. The number of years old that interim Spurs boss Ryan Mason is, plus the number of teams in the Women's Super League, the English Women's Super League, plus the number of international teams Eddie Jones has acted as head coach of, plus the number of Premier League titles Jose Mourinho won as a manager. Your 30 seconds expire when Sinatra sings Bright Shiny Beads. So, how old is Ryan Mason in years? How many teams are in the WSL?
Done.
How many Test international teams has Eddie Jones coached as a head coach? And then the number of Premier League titles Jose Mourinho has won as a manager. Tommy's got his pen down as well. 2 very confident answers. Neil Tracy, pen down. Wow, we've got time to spare here. Neil, what have you got?
48.
Tommy?
Jer, what do you got?
Tommy, what have you got?
What's Jer got? Jer, put his pen down first.
He's right there, so I can check on him.
I can't see what Jer's doing. I
can see from here.
I'm in studio.
51.
Jer,
45.
45. Only one of you didn't go bust, which is Jer. It's 47 was the answer. Neil was 1 away.
Oh, my God.
So,
27? Ryan Mason's 27?
Ryan Mason's 29.
Balls!
Jesus.
Just had this conversation this morning.
The number of teams in the Women's Super League is 12.
12.
Eddie Jones has coached 3.
3 and 3.
And Jose won 3 Premier League titles.
I can't believe Mason's that young.
It's been the biggest story of the week, Tommy. What else have you been reading about, for God's sake?
Jer, that is very important for you. You move on to 3 points. Neil and Tommy, you are both on 1 point. Our winner tonight will be decided in the round that separates the men from the boys, the Andrea Bocellis from the Andrea Nellies. It's an O theme in particular, ridiculously easy rapid fire round. The score you get in this round will be added to your score in the previous round.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much. There will be 40 seconds for everyone to answer from the same set of questions. That was a good rendition. We're going to start with the person with the highest number of points. That's you, Jer. Then on to the person in second, which we tossed a coin earlier to find out that it was Neil, who will go second. If you get a question correct, I will ask you another question and keep asking you questions until you get one wrong. Once you get a question wrong, I'll move on to the next person. And your incorrect answer also means a deduction.
As long as Tommy doesn't win
of
from
1
here,
point.
I'm happy. That's it. Our victory is achieved. Complete.
So it's Ger, Neil, Tommy. You ready,
Best
Ger?
of luck, boys. Good luck.
Except to you, Tommy.
You ready?
Go.
40 seconds starts now. In what year did Galway last win the Hurling All-Ireland?
2016.
No, 17. Who finished higher at the Masters 2 weeks ago, Tommy? Jordan Spieth or John Ram?
It's me, isn't it?
Yeah.
Neil, sorry, go ahead.
Repeat the question.
Who finished higher at the Masters, John Spieth or John Ram?
Ram.
No, Spieth. Hakim Ziyech plays international football for what country, Tommy?
Morocco.
Correct. In what year did Peter Crowley win his All-Ireland medal with Kerry?
2014.
Correct. Conor Murray is from which county?
Say it again.
Conor Murray is from which county?
Come on!
Limerick.
Correct.
Come on!
Paul knocked which fighter out last weekend?
I can't hear you,
Jake Paul knocked which fighter out last weekend?
The wrestler, I don't know.
Too long. Ben Askren. I'm going to ask Ger one more. And if you get this right, it's
No,
because I messed up.
Jer who caused the problem.
No, John Speed.
Gilroy slowed it down.
John
Hold on
Speed.
a second. Owen.
Come on,
Gilroy slowed this down by shouting and screaming.
Is that what I said?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Neil, what's ridiculous?
Here it comes, Tommy. It is all
getting another question.
It is all yours.
Jerry's getting another question. Like, what is this about?
Excuse me.
Because the time ran out, and I messed up the time.
But the time ran out, Owen.
No.
The time ran out because you screwed up the question to Neil, not for Jer. Give Neil another question.
No, that's not how it
You screwed up
works.
the question for
No,
Neil.
Neil got his question.
No, I got screwed.
Owen,
I was
No.
It would have been plenty of time for
You flipped the coin,
Tommy,
and
hold
you
on.
said Neil was next.
I screwed up the question, which screwed up the timer. So it would have come back around to Ger. He would have got in just at the end.
Yeah.
And your question is rapid fire.
I clearly won't get it because he's obviously, he wouldn't give it to me if it wasn't.
Yeah, no, Jer. No. We all know what way this quiz works. Good luck with your softball question. Go on. This is ridiculous, lads.
How many
Can you
All-Ireland?
not just have one quiz?
Come on, how many All-Irelands?
How many All-Ireland medals does Noel Healy have?
5.
Correct.
Boom!
Tie break, Tommy.
No, good luck. Let Neil do the tie break.
No. Okay, Tommy, you can go second.
No!
It's
No,
tie break.
just because he had a hissy fit. Just because he had a hissy fit.
I don't want
That's bad parenting.
I have it here. I have it here. If Tommy versus Ger, Tommy goes for it. In fairness, Tommy, the coin toss also went your way on this case. So it's a how many Irish caps tiebreaker. Ger, how many Ireland caps does Simon Easterby have?
Oh my God, Simon Easterby. $56.
56. Tommy?
I don't care.
Answer the question.
I don't care.
Come on.
I'm saying 56.
You can't. That is
56. I'm saying 56 because
don't pull a
taking
stop,
a stand
Tommy.
here.
He's like Gary Neville on Monday night.
Tommy, how many Ireland caps does Simon Easterby have? Let us all go home.
56.
No,
56.
No.
Okay, Ger, how many? Do you want to adjust your answer then?
56. No, I'm giving my answer. 56.
Okay, yeah,
I genuinely believe it's 56.
Ger is adjusting
just like
his
I
answer.
believe in this quiz. I'm giving my answer is 56.
Okay, thank you, Tommy. Ger, what do you think it is now? Now that you can't pick 56.
Well, I'm going to change my answer as well if Jer gets to change it.
No, 56 you're allowed.
No, you pick. Oh, come on.
Jeez,
Right, okay. If it's not 56, right? Because you're not getting Jer to change his answer again. I'm going to go lower.
You're going to go lower.
Actually, I'm not.
Yeah, hold on a minute.
I'm not going to go lower.
What is going on?
I'm not going lower. I'm going higher.
Get into his head now.
No.
Sure?
I don't think you should be allowed
I'm
to do
going
that.
higher. I'm going higher than 56.
You just changed your answer. You just changed your answer.
Yeah, well, the rules
You
get
just
changed.
changed your answer. You said I couldn't change my answer, then you changed your answer.
You write the rules. You write the rules.
I do
This is
not.
Shambles.
You do. You wrote the rules for this quiz 7 years ago.
Okay.
And we know you're in Owen's ear.
Okay, Tommy, stop, relax, compose yourself. We're going to go with a new tie-break question. And do you want to go first or second, Tommy, in this?
No, Jer can go first again.
And will you? Okay, so Jer, how many Ireland caps does Richard Keogh have?
Oh, for God's sake.
This is a shambles.
Richard Keogh. Richard Keogh has 23 caps.
Ah, you're joking. I was going to say 23 as well.
I don't believe you.
Tommy, going to push you for an answer here.
Richard Keogh has 22 caps.
He's got 26.
Yeah! Get in! Eat my goal! Boom! Boom!
Let's get the music for Ger.
What was the
Simon Easterby answer.
What was Simon Easterby answer?
Simon Easterby at 65. So.
Woo!
Oh.
Tommy,
So, you would have won the second one.
Well, you did want to go lower, and you saw my reaction, so
I didn't see any reaction. I just saw you cheating. I just saw you setting up Gilroy for another win.
Look at the deflection. This is Man United getting rid of Woodward. The deflection that's going on here.
Grand. I didn't know how many caps Richard Keogh had for Ireland, right? I didn't know how many caps Simon Easterby had for Ireland, but I do know that this quiz is rigged for you to win, Ger.
How? On what basis?
Because you're a bad winner, and it's good fun when you win. Like, that's it.
Anything else?
I'm not a great loser. I'm not a great loser. So it suits the narrative.
Well, it's goodbye from the Bocelli impersonator. Thank you, Tommy. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Ger. Congratulations, Ger. It is another win for him. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. This has been a Crappy Quiz.
So further details starting to emerge of exactly what happened around the breaking of the Super League story last weekend. Matt Lawton, chief sports writer with The Times, is with us. Evening, Matt.
Evening.
Well, there's decades where nothing happens and there's weeks where decades happen. Was that one of these for football?
It was, I have to say. What was it, Tuesday night? I was writing our splash, our back page lead. And I think I started writing it about 5 o'clock and I finished writing it at about midnight. I wrote different versions for different editions, but I must have written about 9 different intros as the news just kept changing. From Chelsea, the news broke that Chelsea were pulling out, then City confirmed they were pulling out, then Ed Woodward at Manchester United resigned, and it seemed like that would be it. And then sort of shortly before 11 o'clock, the other 4 English clubs all pulled out as well with statements. It was... I've witnessed a few nights of drama in my time, but most of them have been sport related. Most of them have been, like Man United in '99. I was there in Barcelona. That was a sort of mental night professionally. You're just rewriting everything you've just done. But that was right up there the other night.
This Super League has been talked about for decades at this stage. Were you, because of that, in any way surprised by the ferocity of the backlash? There was always going to be a reaction. There were always going to be questions from supporters. Were you surprised, considering from Sunday when this story broke to Neville and Carragher on Monday Night Football to the way it collapsed on Tuesday night? Were you taken aback in any way by just how big a story it became?
I think the moment it came out, and it was my colleague Martin Ziegler who, there'd been rumblings about it. Obviously, there was a story Mark Kleiman of Sky wrote last October, which was pretty much on the nail, about JP Morgan. And then Martin had some great stuff in January about the exact breakdown of the Super League. And then on the Sunday lunchtime had the detail about the English clubs signing up. I knew that there would be opposition. I'm not being smart after the event. I never thought they'd get away with it because it was so abhorrent what they were trying to do, and just the whole closed league thing and a lack of competition. I just thought there's no way anyone's going to accept that. But I guess the bit that surprised me was the fact that people who were employed by these main protagonists, these American billionaires, the managers, Klopp, Guardiola, the players, Milner, it was the fact that they publicly criticised the plan. That was the bit that surprised me. I was pleasantly surprised by the way there was this kind of unified response from the media, fans, government. How often does that happen where everyone's on the same page? Probably never. But it was actually the fact that, Klopp was, I thought his pre-match interview on Monday night was crushing for them. But then Milner piled in after the game And then when Guardiola went for City and basically said that it's just not sport, I just thought they're done. You've got Klopp and Guardiola against it. You know, at this moment in time, the two biggest managers in the Premier League, and two members of the Big Six. You're done. This ain't happening.
Yourself and Martin Ziegler have a piece today with some of the details around of who knew what when, and then also on the speed at which the project fell apart. It was only last Friday that senior communication staff at the 6 clubs were told about the Super League, and there's a brilliant quote, one of them saying, "We knew we were in for a tsunami of shit the second they heard about this." It is incredible that a project involving billions of euro, a project that would have changed the entire face of the footballing landscape, had put such little thought into how people inside and outside of football would react to it.
Yeah, I think it is crazy, because I actually think that a couple of the clubs, I think perhaps even 3 of the clubs, City, Chelsea and Tottenham, I don't think they knew till the end of last week how far advanced it was. And certainly, yes, you're absolutely right. On last Friday, the 6 sort of comms officers, the 6 clubs were called to this meeting. Completely, obviously, they'd seen the stories. They would have been aware. I'm sure they were aware that there were talks about it and there were discussions happening. But I don't think any of them had any idea that they were actually at that point of everyone signing up for it. So they were completely taken aback. And yes, that quote, "tsunami of shit," because I think they walked out of that meeting, or they didn't walk out because it wasn't a physical meeting. But they turned out there, they pressed the red button on the Zoom call, and were just like, "Oh my God," because these guys are, they're highly paid, experienced comms people, and they were thinking, right, who's that? When the bomb goes off, who's actually fronting this up? Who is so it's all very well putting out that statement as they did on Sunday night with quotes from Agnelli, Perez and Joel Glazer. It's the most Joel Glazer's said in however many years he's been at Man United. But, who's fronting this? You've got a former Downing Street spin doctor and an ex-BBC journalist who was also involved with Project Big Picture, and that one went well as well. Who's a PR guy now, and they were thinking, right, who's gonna take the hits? Who's going to answer the questions? And the fact that there was going to be this vacuum, I think they understood that no one putting out the fires was going to be a real problem. And all it did was there was just a wall of noise on one side that was just getting louder by the hour, and nothing coming back on the other side. They were just all getting hammered. It was just like the artillery was flying in, and there was they couldn't fight back.
By the sounds of it, then there was the clash of trying to create this monster of a Super League while also maintaining secrecy, which meant that very few people knew about it. The club owners were involved. It doesn't seem as though many club executives, aside from the very, very top tier of club executives, nobody knew anything about this, which left little or no time to actually prepare a plan, a communication plan, because you look at the website, it looked like something a secondary school student put together.
Fag packet, as a colleague of mine said, back of a fag packet. Yeah, absolutely. This sort of 2-page thing, like the graphics looked crap, didn't they? And it was just like, what is this? When it landed at about 10 to midnight on Sunday night, I was just like, really? Is this it? But I think the problem is they decided, and I think it was foolish. So I don't think it mattered. They set themselves the deadline of pulling the pin out of the grenade before UEFA were going to unveil their new plan for the Champions League. I just don't think that was necessary. But given that they were so sort of detached from what was going on anyway, why put yourself under that pressure? And it just hadn't been thought through. And yes, I think you're right. I think because they needed to maintain an element of secrecy, keep it as tight as possible. That said, somebody told me yesterday there were hundreds of people working on it in the background. I assume comms people, acting for, as we know, but whoever was talking to JP Morgan and all the people there. So I think there were a lot of people involved, but they did keep it pretty tight. But the fact they hadn't canvassed the opinion of the managers, even, surely you could have had a chat with Jurgen Klopp and been pretty confident he wouldn't have blabbed it to the Merseyside reporters. You know what I mean? Like, you could have had a chat with Pep and said, listen, Pep, we're thinking about this. What do you think? And he would have said, I hate it. You can't have a closed league. That's not the way it works. You can't, remove that incentive, remove that element of competition. It'll kill the game. And then they might have thought twice about it. But they just, I don't know, I just think they saw dollar signs and so ill-conceived. It's extraordinary how, I know not every rich man walking on this planet is necessarily intelligent, but I'm assuming if you're as wealthy as these guys are, they're quite bright. But they didn't show a great deal of intelligence with this one.
No. In regards to the collapse then, and success has many fathers, and it seems this success of getting it to collapse has many, from Boris Johnson trying to claim credit in the British government, royalty and Prince William's intervention seems to have been important. Richard Masters in the Premier League come out of this looking very good. Was it the political pressure, or was it that sheer footballing presence of Klopp before the match? As you say, Guardiola's strong comments, and in particular James Milner, that felt like a big moment when he said, I don't like it and I don't want it. It was straight up to his owners, this ain't happening.
Yeah, and then that fake Twitter account boring James Milner, they need to reconsider that, don't they? Because it was a pretty important intervention from James Milner, and he deserves all our respect for that. But I think it was a combination. I do know that they were stunned by, look, let's not be naive. It was a good PR opportunity to intervene in this respect. There were obviously a couple of smart Downing Street spin doctors that thought we should get involved in this. But no, I think they were stunned that by the sheer speed with which the Prime Minister was engaged and the tone of what he was saying. When he talked about dropping a legislative bomb on them, it's pretty strong stuff. We knew that they were going to look at law changes. We knew they were going to look at they were going to throw every obstacle in the way if it hadn't collapsed as soon as it had. They would have looked at the sort of work permit area. I don't know they would have done this, but they could have gone as far, because every game that is played has to be sanctioned by the FA, and it's on that basis that work permits are given, particularly post-Brexit. They could have literally, to the clubs that have stepped out of that pyramid, they could have literally sent the managers, the foreign managers and the foreign players packing from those clubs. They could have done that. And another move they could have made, I was told, and I discussed this with someone within sort of government circles, was they could have made it a listed event. And this would have been fairly straightforward, I was told. And what that means, a listed event, is they could have made it like the World Cup and the Olympics. And when you do that with a listed event, it means that only the terrestrial broadcasters can bid for it.
So the value of the rights goes way down.
For the World Cup. Oh my God, absolutely. JP Morgan would have run for the hills, because it would have been, hang on a minute, how are we going to get our $4 billion back? So absolutely, there was. And I think those kind of noises, it was getting through. And at the same time, I think what was really interesting was that, as we've said, it was at the very highest level. It was at ownership level that these conversations were happening in most cases. And what you did have going on in the background was you had CEOs and people at that level having conversations with other CEOs at other clubs, at the FA, at the Premier League, at UEFA, saying, this is a disaster. See, it was really interesting that the FA, UEFA, Premier League, they knew on Tuesday morning that they were wobbling. I think they knew on Monday night they were wobbling. Now, how do they know that? They know that because they've got sources within those 6 clubs. You know? So we knew. I got a call at 9:30 on Tuesday morning saying Chelsea and Man City were wobbling.
Right.
And we ran a story at lunchtime. We have set editions. We have 9, midday, 5, and then at midnight. And so at our midday edition, we ran a story to that effect that the clubs were wobbling. And of course, by tea time, as Jamie Carragher said on Monday Night Football on Sky, it'll only take 1 to go. Now, by that point, there'd been a meeting all afternoon. The 12 rebel clubs had been meeting all afternoon. And I think Chelsea just decided they had fans demonstrating outside the ground. They had a match on, and they decided, I think Abramovich just gave the order, do it now, get us out. And that's what they did.
Chelsea and Manchester City were among the last clubs to agree to this, and it seems by Friday ended up being sort of railroaded in that this is happening this weekend, you've got to come in now or you're going to miss the boat. What were their misgivings? Because we are talking about 2 clubs who have changed the face of English football over the past 15, 16 years with their ownership structure, with their buying power. It can't have been sporting integrity that they needed relegation, that they felt that this was the best thing for the sport. Why was it that the owners of those 2 clubs weren't that keen to get involved?
No, I think it would have been that. I honestly think it would have been that. It would have been, their reservations would have been the reservations that were expressed by Pep Guardiola. And I just think they would have, I think they were bright enough to see that it wasn't going to be popular, that they would be seen as pariahs. The fact of the matter is, we go back to that Friday meeting with the comms officers. The media strategy was, as we said in the piece today, it's going to be a bumpy ride. We just got to stick together. Well, it was a bit of an understatement. But I think they knew that. I think they realised that. But you suddenly get, as one of them put it, one source at a club put it to me, they were faced with that dilemma because they were being told, if you don't jump on the train now, it won't be stopping again. Now, I'm not sure how true that was, because I think Bayern Munich, I'm quite sure if they'd put their hand up, the train would have stopped for them.
Yeah.
Because I think that was a big problem for them right from the start. Again, as I'm not trying to be wise after the event, but I always thought, how can this work when the reigning European champions are saying we don't want any part of this? Never mind Paris Saint-Germain. It was a massive problem. So when you've got a club of the stature of Bayern Munich saying, no, we're not doing it, how can it be a Super League if they're not in it? So it was just fraught with problems and an incredible episode.
There's obviously been a huge amount of anger over the last few days towards the 6 clubs and what recriminations there should be for the clubs now from the 14 other Premier League teams, and should there be points deductions or potentially transfer bans. It doesn't sound as though any of that is likely. Is it a case that the biggest loss for the 6 clubs is that their bargaining tool that they've held over everybody for years upon years upon years, that we can go, that's gone forever? It's hard to see, despite Florentino Perez appearing on late night radio in Spain, that bargaining tool that they had is now gone forever.
Yeah, I certainly think they will struggle to act as certainly in the Premier League, as the Big Six. And you've got to think that Big Six thing has been, I think it contributed to Richard Scudamore leaving the Premier League. I think it contributed to Susanna Dinenage not taking the job.
Why? Because they just wouldn't have the power that they would want as CEO?
Just because there was this group that held such power and were just going to be a problem. And I think it certainly has. It will make it much harder for them to. Well, they just won't be able to do it. We've done a story tonight. Martin's written it. That they are looking to change the laws, but also the rules in this country to make sure that never happens again. That you can't do that. If you're part of the Premier League, you can't get involved in a breakaway league that that basically destroys the pyramid of European football. You know, look, in that meeting of the 14 excluded clubs on Tuesday, there was a real desire for retribution. You know, I spoke to one of the CEOs that was in the meeting, and there were calls for the Ed Woodwards, the Daniel Levys to be individually sanctioned, for charged with bringing the game into disrepute, possibly suspended from football. There was that kind of talk going on among the clubs. They were that angry. They felt that betrayed. But once they crumbled, I think there's a realisation that at the end of the day, the Premier League needs to be those 20 clubs, and they need those 6 clubs in there. Look, they're going to be removed from the subcommittees. We had the story this morning that they're going to be removed from the subcommittees. They're not going to have the same power. The days of Bruce Buck sort of driving, the Chelsea chairman driving the campaign for Richard Scudamore to get his £5 million golden farewell. He ain't going to be in that role anymore. It's good. Yeah, they're going to have to, as one comms guy put it to me, they're going to be sat on the naughty step for a while. But
OTB AM
with Gillette. Put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.